Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Architects of Ruin. Dominic Russo nursed his bourbon in the darkened corner of his home office, staring at the surveillance footage playing on his monitor. The security system he'd installed 6 months ago, ostensibly to protect his family after a break-in down the street, was serving its true purpose. On screen, his wife of 17 years, Vanessa, was tangled in the arms of Perry Walsh in their guest house. Perry, his business partner of 12 years and supposedly his closest friend. Dominic wasn't surprised. He was simply gathering evidence. A self-made real estate developer worth just north of $11 million. Dominic had built his empire through calculation and patience. The same qualities that made him successful in business made him lethal when crossed. He believed in justice, his version of it. Dad, Leo's voice broke through his thoughts. Dominic quickly switched screens before his 14-year-old son entered the room. Hey, buddy. Dominic forced a smile. Leo was skinny, awkward, with a mind sharper than most adults Dominic knew. The kid struggled socially, but excelled academically, a trait Vanessa seemed to resent rather than celebrate. Mom's not home yet. Can we order pizza? Leo asked, fidgeting with the strings of his hoodie. Sure thing. The usual. Dominic closed the surveillance program completely. Yeah. Hey, Dad. Leo hesitated. I heard Mom talking to Grandma Eleanor about me yesterday. She called me that weird kid and said she wished I was more normal. A muscle twitched in Dominic's jaw. Your mother has her own issues, Leo. That has nothing to do with you. Leo nodded, unconvinced. Perry's car is parked down the street again. I think he thinks I'm stupid and don't notice. Dominic's expression didn't change, but internally his resolve hardened. People underestimating you is an advantage, Leo. Remember that. After Leo left, Dominic reopened the surveillance program. His mind traveled back to meeting Vanessa during the recession of 2008. He'd been building his first major development. She was the interior designer hired by his original partner. When that partner tried to push Dominic out, Vanessa had warned him, giving him time to counter. He'd fallen for her loyalty as much as her beauty. 17 years later, she was betraying him with the new partner he'd taken on after building his company into a regional powerhouse. The symmetry wasn't lost on him. Dominic's phone buzzed. A text from Kendrick Lopez, his former military buddy turned private investigator. They're planning weekend in Connecticut. Reservation confirmed at Hillcrest Inn. 2 nights. Dominic typed back. Good. Keep tracking financials. Need transaction timeline. He took another sip of bourbon. In the kitchen, he could hear Leo rummaging for plates. The boy who Vanessa had gradually pulled away from over the years. The son she'd begun to treat as an inconvenience. Dominic pulled up another file, a detailed dossier on Perry Walsh. His partner had secrets that went beyond the affair. Financial troubles hidden beneath a veneer of success. Gambling debts to people who didn't send collection letters. A prescription drug habit that explained his erratic behavior in recent months. But most importantly, Perry had stupidly used company funds to impress Vanessa. Fancy dinners, jewelry, weekend getaways. Not enough to be immediately noticed, but enough that when aggregated and presented properly, would constitute fraud. Dominic didn't plan to expose this through corporate channels. That would damage his own company. No, he had something much more devastating in mind. The doorbell rang, pizza delivery. Dominic closed his files, locked his computer, and went to join his son for dinner. Tonight, he'd be the attentive father while his wife was working late. Tomorrow, he'd begin executing the first phase of a plan 6 months in the making. No one betrayed Dominic Russo and walked away unscathed. Not his wife, not his partner, not even his son, should it ever come to that, though he hoped it never would. Leo was the one pure thing in this mess, and Dominic intended to protect him while scorching the earth around everyone else. Chapter 2. Shadows and Whispers. The charity gala at the Westview Country Club sparkled with wealth and pretension. Dominic adjusted his bow tie in the reflection of a decorative mirror, watching as Vanessa charmed a group of potential donors across the room. She looked stunning in her emerald gown, a dress he'd paid for, but that she'd chosen to impress Perry. "You're awfully calm for a man being betrayed," came a smooth voice beside him. Olivia Winters, his attorney and longtime confidant, handed him a champagne flute. "Why waste emotion when calculation is more effective?" Dominic replied, taking the drink. Olivia, sharp-featured, formidable, and one of the few people Dominic genuinely respected, nodded toward Perry, who stood awkwardly conversing with the mayor. "Does he suspect you now?" "Not yet. Neither of them do." Dominic's voice remained perfectly level. "Did you file those amended operating agreements?" "This morning. As far as your business is concerned, Mr. Walsh's position is precarious at best. One wrong move, and he's not just out, he's liable." Olivia sipped her champagne. But personal betrayal is harder to quantify in legal terms. Dominic's eyes tracked Vanessa as she excused herself from her conversation and headed toward the restrooms. "That's why I'm handling that part myself." The plan was multi-layered, designed to dismantle both Vanessa and Perry piece by piece. For Perry, financial ruin and professional disgrace. For Vanessa, the loss of everything she valued: social standing, financial security, and most importantly, control of the narrative. Dominic, Eleanor Preston, Vanessa's mother, approached with the entitled air of someone who believed money equaled worth. "You should be mingling, not hiding in corners. The Campbell Group is looking to invest in new developments." "I've already spoken with them, Eleanor," Dominic replied coolly. "In fact, we're meeting next week." Eleanor's smile tightened. She had never approved of Dominic, the self-made man who didn't come from proper society. Even after he'd achieved success, she treated him as an outsider. The feeling was mutual. "Where's Leo tonight?" Eleanor asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer. "Home. These events aren't his scene." Dominic maintained his calm facade, though his dislike for his mother-in-law ran deep. She'd encouraged Vanessa's worst qualities over the years: the materialism, the social climbing, the dismissive attitude toward Leo's intellectual pursuits. "That boy needs to learn social skills. He'll never succeed otherwise, no matter how smart Vanessa claims he is." Eleanor's voice dripped with condescension. "Leo will find his own path to success," Dominic replied evenly. "Not everyone measures achievement by how well they work a room." Eleanor scoffed. "Well, at least the dog's properly trained. More than I can say for her. If you'll excuse me." Dominic cut her off, nodding to Olivia. "Business matters." As they walked away, Olivia whispered, "That woman is a piece of work, and she'll be a valuable piece of the puzzle," Dominic replied. "Her contempt for Leo is well documented and will be useful." Across the room, Dominic noticed Perry checking his phone, then making a subtle exit toward the terrace. 3 minutes later, Vanessa emerged from the restroom hallway and followed the same path. "Right on schedule," Dominic murmured, checking his watch. "I need to make my rounds. The foundation donors need attention." "And what do you need?" Olivia asked, studying his face. Dominic's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Justice, Olivia. Carefully crafted, meticulously delivered justice." Later that night, as Vanessa slept beside him, having returned from the terrace 20 minutes after Perry, lipstick freshly applied but slightly smudged at the corner, Dominic reached for his phone. A new message from Kendra confirmed that all listening devices were active in Perry's office, car, and apartment. "Files incoming hourly. Voice activation working perfectly," the text read. Dominic set his phone down and stared at the ceiling. In the quiet darkness, he allowed himself to feel the full weight of his anger. Not the hot, volatile kind that led to mistakes, but the cold, hardened variety that fueled precision. Tomorrow, he would begin feeding Perry false information about a new development opportunity, one that would tempt his greedy partner to make a critical mistake. Meanwhile, Vanessa would receive an anonymous gift, a beautiful diamond bracelet she would assume came from Perry, but that would lead back to a company account in ways that would emerge at precisely the right moment. Every betrayal had its price. Dominic was simply ensuring the invoice would come due when he chose, not when they expected. Chapter 3: The Point of No Return. Leo slammed his bedroom door, the sound reverberating through the house. The shouting match that had preceded it still hung in the air as Dominic stood in the kitchen, watching Vanessa pour herself a generous glass of wine. He needs to learn respect, she hissed, her hands trembling slightly. I can't believe you're defending his behavior. He defended his science project, Dominic corrected calmly. The one you called weird and refused to attend the presentation for. Vanessa rolled her eyes. It's not normal for a kid his age to be obsessed with acoustic engineering and sound wave patterns. He needs to play sports, make friends, be normal. He is normal. He's just not average. Dominic leaned against the counter. And your constant criticism isn't helping. Of course you'd say that. You encourage his odd behaviors. Vanessa took a long drink of wine. Did you see Mrs. Hendrick's face when Leo started explaining his theories at the neighborhood barbecue? We looked ridiculous. Dominic studied his wife. This woman he once believed was his partner in all things. When had she become so shallow? Or had she always been, and he'd simply been too infatuated to notice? I'm taking Bella for a walk, Vanessa announced, referring to their golden retriever. Maybe when I get back, you'll have talked some sense into your son. Our son, Dominic corrected. Vanessa's expression hardened. Sometimes I wonder. The implication hung between them, a match held over gasoline. Dominic felt his careful control slipping. What exactly are you suggesting, Vanessa? His voice was dangerously quiet. She backpedaled immediately. Nothing. I'm stressed. The Collins project is behind schedule, and Perry's breathing down my neck about the design changes. Perry seems to be breathing down your neck about a lot of things lately, Dominic remarked, watching her reaction closely. A flash of panic crossed her face before she masked it. He's demanding. You know that. It's why you made him partner. Among other qualities, Dominic maintained eye contact. Loyalty, for instance. Vanessa called for Bella, clipping on the dog's leash with shaking hands. I'll be back in an hour. After she left, Dominic climbed the stairs to Leo's room, knocking softly. Not if it's Mom, came the muffled response. It's me, Dominic answered. The door opened to reveal Leo's red-rimmed eyes. She hates me, Dad. She doesn't understand you, Dominic replied, though he knew Leo's assessment was closer to the truth. Your mind works differently than hers. She told Grandma Eleanor that she wished she had a different kid. Leo's voice cracked. I heard them on the phone last week. Grandma said, at least the dog's trained, and Mom laughed. Dominic felt something break inside him, the last thread of restraint regarding his wife. He sat on the edge of Leo's bed, choosing his words carefully. People sometimes say cruel things when they feel inadequate, he explained. Your intelligence intimidates your mother. It always has. Is that why she spends so much time with Mr. Walsh? Because he's not intimidating, Leo asked bluntly. Dominic stared at his son, realizing the boy was more observant than he'd given him credit for. What do you mean by that? Leo shrugged, looking suddenly uncomfortable. I saw texts on her phone when she asked me to find an address. They were weird, and she comes home smelling like his cologne sometimes. In that moment, Dominic made a decision. He would accelerate his plans. The evidence was mounting, and now Leo was being hurt directly. The psychological damage his wife and mother-in-law were inflicting could no longer be tolerated. Leo, Dominic said carefully, I want you to start keeping notes, dates, times, things you hear Mom say about you, especially to Grandma or on the phone. Can you do that? Leo looked confused but nodded. Like a research project? Exactly like that. Dominic squeezed his son's shoulder. And I need you to save any text messages Mom sends you, even if they seem unimportant. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Leo asked directly, his analytical mind cutting straight to the logical conclusion. Dominic didn't insult his son's intelligence with a denial. I'm considering all options. But whatever happens, you and I are a team. Understood, Leo nodded solemnly. Team Russo. Team Russo, Dominic agreed, feeling a surge of protectiveness. That night, after confirming Leo was asleep, Dominic made a call to Kendrick. I need everything accelerated. All surveillance, all financial tracking. And I need you to follow Eleanor Preston. I suspect she's more involved than we realized. Consider it done, Kendrick replied. What changed? They crossed the line with my son, Dominic said simply. Now, there's no going back. The next morning, Dominic met with Olivia to revise their strategy. Perry had taken the bait regarding the fake development opportunity, already approaching potential investors with information that would soon prove embarrassingly incorrect. We need to file for divorce within 2 weeks, Dominic told Olivia. But first, I want all financial safeguards in place. The trusts for Leo are already ironclad, Olivia assured him. And I've documented the company fund misappropriations. But are you sure about the timeline? Rushing could mean mistakes. I'm not rushing. I'm responding. Dominic handed her a folder. These are transcripts of conversations between Vanessa and her mother about Leo. I want them ready for the custody hearing. Olivia reviewed the papers, her expression darkening. This is disturbing, and it ends now, Dominic stated firmly. One more thing. I want to make sure Leo has the opportunity to speak in court. He deserves to be heard. I'll make it happen, Olivia promised. Dominic, are you sure you can maintain your composure through this? The evidence here would make most fathers lose control. Dominic's eyes were cold, determined. I'm beyond anger, Olivia. This is about calculated justice now. They chose their path. I'm simply ensuring they walk it to its logical conclusion. As he left Olivia's office, Dominic received a text from Vanessa, working late with Perry on Colin's project. Don't wait up. He texted back a single word. Understood. The trap was set. The players were in position. The point of no return had been crossed. Chapter 4. Silent Warfare. 3 days after his conversation with Leo, Dominic sat across from Perry Walsh in their company conference room, watching his business partner squirm under the scrutiny of their investors. The exclusive development opportunity Perry had prematurely shared with them was unraveling spectacularly. I was given to understand that the zoning was already approved, said Howard Blackwell, the lead investor, his voice sharp with displeasure. That's what I was told, Perry replied, shooting a desperate glance at Dominic. Dominic leaned forward, hands clasped on the table. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. The preliminary discussions with the city council were positive, but no formal approval has been granted. We would never presume otherwise. The subtle emphasis on we hung in the air. Then why did Mr. Walsh assure us it was a done deal? Another investor demanded. Perry is enthusiastic, Dominic offered diplomatically. Sometimes that enthusiasm can get ahead of the facts. But rest assured, Russo Developments stands by its reputation for transparency and honesty. The meeting ended with Perry thoroughly humiliated and the investors looking to Dominic for stability. It was the first domino in his plan, creating distance between himself and Perry in the eyes of their business associates. What the hell was that? Perry confronted him after everyone left. You threw me under the bus. I corrected misinformation, Dominic replied calmly. Information you shared without consulting me. I was trying to lock in financing early. The opportunity is solid. The opportunity requires a proper procedure. Dominic cut him off. You know that. Perry ran a hand through his hair, agitated. Look, I got a lot on my plate right now. Personal stuff. Anything I should know about? Dominic asked, his tone neutral despite knowing exactly what personal stuff entailed. No, just stress. Hey, are we still on for the charity board meeting tonight? Dominic nodded. 7 o'clock. I'll be there. He wouldn't be. At 6:30, Dominic would send his regrets, citing a sudden client emergency. Perry and Vanessa would both attend, thinking Dominic was occupied elsewhere. Meanwhile, Kendrick would be documenting their interaction, adding to the growing file of evidence. Later that afternoon, Dominic met Leo after school, taking him for ice cream, a rare father-son outing that both needed. Mom's been weird, Leo commented, picking at his chocolate chip cookie dough scoop. She keeps asking if you've said anything about work problems. Dominic considered this. What exactly does she ask? If you're upset about anything with the business. If you mention Mr. Walsh. Leo shrugged. I told her you don't really talk to me about work stuff. Good answer. Dominic nodded approvingly. Has she said anything else about you? Like what we discussed. Leo pulled out his phone, opening a notes app. I've been keeping track like you asked. Yesterday she told Grandma Eleanor that dealing with me is exhausting because I overthink everything. And this morning she texted me this. He showed Dominic a text message. Going to be late tonight. Walk, Bella. and make your own dinner. And please don't start any weird experiments in the kitchen like last time. Just normal food. Why can't you be normal for once? Dominic took a deep breath. Keep saving these, Leo. And keep that recording app one install for you running when mom and grandma are talking about you. It feels sneaky, Leo admitted. It's protection, Dominic corrected. Sometimes the truth needs documentation. That evening, while Vanessa and Perry attended the charity board meeting, Dominic accessed Vanessa's laptop. Her password, their anniversary date, had remained unchanged for years, a fact that seemed sadly symbolic now. He wasn't surprised to find emails between Vanessa and Perry dating back 8 months. What did surprise him was the discovery of a separate email thread between Vanessa and Eleanor, discussing plans for after the inevitable split. Once the divorce is finalized, we'll need to decide what to do about Leo, Eleanor had written. Dominic will fight for custody, but frankly, you'd be better off without that burden. The dog is one thing, trainable, affectionate, normal. But that boy will never fit in with the life you deserve. Vanessa's reply made Dominic's blood run cold. I'm taking the dog. He can have the disgusting kid. Let him deal with the science experiments and social awkwardness. I'll put in my time. Dominic forwarded the emails to his secure account, then to Olivia. His phone buzzed almost immediately after. This is exactly what we need, Olivia texted. Filing first thing tomorrow. Judge Whitman has our case. Judge Raymond Whitman was known for his stringent views on parental responsibility and his particular disdain for parents who rejected their children for any reason, especially disability or neurodivergence. While Leo had never been formally diagnosed with anything, his obvious intellectual gifts and social challenges placed him in a category Judge Whitman would be inclined to protect. Dominic checked his watch. Vanessa wouldn't be home for at least another 2 hours, according to Kendrick's update. He went to Leo's room, finding his son working on his laptop. Hey, buddy, what are you working on? Leo looked up, his expression brightening. A program that analyzes sound patterns in conversations. It can identify stress markers in voices even when people try to hide them. Dominic smiled. His son's brilliance never ceased to amaze him. That's incredible. Listen, I need to tell you something important. Tomorrow, some things are going to change. I'm filing for divorce from your mom. Leo nodded slowly. I figured that was coming. Is it because of her and Mr. Walsh? Partly, Dominic admitted, but mostly because of how she treats you. That's not acceptable to me. What's going to happen? Leo asked, his analytical mind already looking for the variables to process. There will be legal proceedings. You might need to talk to a judge at some point. Dominic sat on the edge of the bed. I'm going to request full custody of you. Leo's eyes widened. Mom won't like that. No, she won't, Dominic agreed. But sometimes people reveal their true priorities under pressure. We need to be prepared for whatever happens. That night, Dominic slept in the guest room, claiming a headache when Vanessa returned home. The next morning, he left before she woke, meeting Olivia at the courthouse to file the divorce papers. Preliminary hearing is set for next week. Olivia informed him as they walked out. Vanessa will be served today. And Perry? Dominic asked. The financial audit request goes to the company board this afternoon. By the time he realizes what's happening, it'll be too late to hide the transactions. Dominic nodded, feeling not satisfaction, but a cold resolve. When this is done, I want new trusts established for Leo. Something that can never be touched, regardless of what happens to me or the company. Already drafted, Olivia assured him. Dominic, are you prepared for how ugly this might get? Vanessa won't go quietly. I'm counting on it, Dominic replied. The louder she fights, the more she'll expose her true nature. By noon, Vanessa had been served with divorce papers. By 12:30, she was blowing up Dominic's phone. By 1 p.m., she had marched into his office, face contorted with rage. Full custody? Are you out of your mind? She screamed, waving the papers. Dominic remained seated, calm. I believe it's best for Leo. This is about Perry, isn't it? You found out, and now you're punishing me by trying to take my son. Our son, Dominic corrected for the second time that week. And no, this isn't about Perry. It's about the emails where you called Leo disgusting and planned to abandon him after our divorce. Vanessa's face drained of color. You hacked my emails? That's illegal. Is that really the point you want to focus on? Dominic asked quietly. Not the fact that you referred to our child as a burden you're eager to be rid of. I was venting. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're frustrated. To that extent, planning to abandon your child? Calling him disgusting. Dominic stood now, his composure still intact, but his eyes cold. The emails to your mother go back months, Vanessa. This isn't a one-time frustration. It's a pattern of emotional abuse. Vanessa's strategy shifted instantly. You're twisting things. I love Leo. He's just difficult. You've always favored him, made excuses for his oddities. I'm just being realistic about his challenges. Save it for court, Dominic replied, unmoved. Judge Whitman has our case. I'm sure he'll be interested in your perspective on parental obligations. The mention of Judge Whitman, whose reputation was well known, made Vanessa pause. This isn't fair. You're trying to destroy me. No, Vanessa, you did that yourself. Dominic gestured to the door. Now, I have work to do. My attorney will handle all further communications. After she left, Dominic received a text from Kendrick. V went straight to P's office. Both now headed to her mother's house. Audio surveillance active. The pieces were moving exactly as he'd anticipated. Now to prepare Leo for what would come next. Chapter 5. The Gathering Storm. Eleanor Preston's lakeside mansion buzzed with tense energy as Vanessa paced the sunroom. Perry watched her nervously from the sofa, and Eleanor herself mixed martinis with the precision of someone who'd made them her coping mechanism for decades. He knows everything, Vanessa hissed, accepting the drink from her mother. The emails, the affair, all of it. Calm down, Eleanor commanded. Dominic is smart, but he's not infallible. We just need the right strategy. Unknown to them, every word was being captured by the small listening device Kendrick had placed in Eleanor's prized orchid arrangement during a catering event the previous month. Back at his office, Dominic listened to the live feed, Olivia beside him taking notes. We need to focus on his business practices, Eleanor was saying. There must be something we can use. Perry, you're his partner. What do you have on him? Perry sounded uncomfortable. Dominic is meticulous. I've never seen him cut corners or break rules. Everyone has dirt, Eleanor insisted. Find it. Maybe we should focus on Leo instead, Vanessa suggested. If we can show he's better off with me. Eleanor's laugh was sharp. Please, that peculiar boy is closer to his father than he's ever been to you. And you've made your feelings about him quite clear. Those emails were private venting. Vanessa protested. And now they're evidence. Eleanor replied bluntly. No, we need a different approach. Perry, the company audit. Can you delay it? I've tried. Perry sounded defeated. The board is insistent. They're reviewing all executive expenses for the past 18 months, which means they'll find the jewelry, the trips, all of it, Vanessa concluded, panic edging into her voice. Not if you return them, Eleanor suggested. The bracelet, the earrings, give them back to Perry. He can claim they were purchased for a different purpose. That won't work, Perry objected. The timing of the purchases corresponds with our hotel stays. It creates a pattern. Dominic and Olivia exchanged looks. This was better than they'd hoped. Then we need to destroy Dominic's credibility, Eleanor declared. Make him seem unstable, dangerous even. Vanessa, you'll need to document any aggressive behavior, any threats. He doesn't threaten. Vanessa sounded frustrated. He doesn't even raise his voice. Then provoke him. Eleanor snapped. For God's sake, the man is divorcing you and trying to take your son. There must be some button you can push. The conversation continued in this vein, with Eleanor suggesting increasingly desperate tactics, while Perry worried about the audit and Vanessa vacillated between denial and panic. Olivia stopped the recording. This is gold, Dominic. They're literally conspiring to fabricate evidence against you and demonstrating a complete disregard for Leo's well-being in the process, Dominic added. Make sure Judge Whitman gets a transcript before the preliminary hearing. That evening, Dominic sat with Leo in his bedroom, preparing him for what was coming. Mom might try to suddenly act like she's more interested in you, Dominic explained gently. She might offer to take you places, buy you things, or show up at your science club meetings. Leo looked skeptical. Why would she do that now? To create the impression that she's an engaged mother. Dominic replied honestly. The court considers many factors in deciding custody, including which parent has been more involved in your activities. Leo considered this. So, she'd be pretending to care about my interests just to look good? Potentially, Dominic acknowledged, careful not to explicitly turn his son against his mother despite her actions. The important thing is that you know your worth isn't determined by her approval, and that whatever happens in court, you and I are going to be okay. Dad, Leo hesitated. Last night, Mom texted me something weird. He showed Dominic his phone. The message read, "I'm taking the dog. You get the disgusting kid." Her mom laughed. At least the dog's trained. I wish you could hear how they talk about you. Dominic frowned. This is from your mother's number? Leo nodded. But it doesn't sound like her. It's like she's quoting someone else, but sent it to me by mistake. May I? Dominic asked, gesturing to the phone. When Leo nodded, he forwarded the message to his own device and to Olivia. This was probably meant for Perry or your grandmother. She was quoting herself and Eleanor. Leo's expression fell. So she really does think I'm disgusting. Dominic put his arm around his son's shoulders. What she thinks reflects her limitations, not yours. Keep saving these messages, Leo. They matter. Over the next few days, the pressure mounted on all fronts. The company audit uncovered Perry's misappropriation of funds, leading to an emergency board meeting where he was suspended pending further investigation. Vanessa, as Eleanor had suggested, began making obvious attempts to appear interested in Leo's activities, showing up at his science club competition for the first time in years and awkwardly trying to understand his acoustic engineering project. Leo, wise beyond his years, saw through the performance but remained polite, a quality Dominic had always admired in his son. She asked if she could take a photo with me and my project, Leo reported afterward. Then she posted it on Instagram with some hashtag about proud mom moments. She's never even looked at my project before. Dominic simply nodded. How did the competition go otherwise? I won first place, Leo said with a small smile. The judges said my sound wave analysis program has practical applications for security systems. That's my boy, Dominic said proudly. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. The weekend before, Vanessa made a desperate attempt to sway Dominic. We can work this out privately, she suggested, finding him in his home office. There's no need to drag our dirty laundry through the courts. Dominic looked up from his computer. What are you proposing? Joint custody of Leo. I keep the house. You keep the company. We divide other assets equally. She sat on the edge of his desk, attempting a conciliatory tone. Perry's already been dealt with. Why continue this public spectacle? And Bella? Dominic asked, referring to the dog. I keep Bella, of course, Vanessa replied without hesitation. Leo has never been as attached to her as I am. Dominic leaned back in his chair. So you get the house, the dog, and shared custody of the child you called disgusting and plan to abandon. What exactly am I getting in this generous offer? Vanessa's expression hardened. You're getting a clean break without your reputation being questioned. Mother has friends in the press, Dominic. This could get very public, very ugly. Are you threatening me, Vanessa? His voice remained calm, but his eyes had turned to ice. I'm being practical, she countered. Eleanor thinks we should fight dirty. I'm offering an alternative. Dominic studied his wife. This woman who had once been his partner, his supporter. Now she sat before him, threatening media exposure if he didn't agree to her terms, completely unconcerned about what was best for their son. The hearing is Monday, 9 a.m., he said finally. I'll see you there. Vanessa stood, her composure slipping. You're making a mistake. I can hurt you, Dominic. Don't think I won't. You've been hurting our son for years, Dominic replied evenly. That ends now, regardless of what you try to do to me. After she left, Dominic called Kendrick. I need security for Leo this weekend. Vanessa's getting desperate. Already arranged, Kendrick assured him. And I've got something you should hear. Eleanor Preston made some calls to a tabloid reporter this afternoon, offering dirt on you. Let her, Dominic replied. The restraining order against her will be more effective if she's already demonstrated malicious intent. On Sunday night, Leo knocked on Dominic's office door, looking troubled. Dad, Mom's been texting me weird stuff again. He handed over his phone. The latest message read, Court tomorrow. Your father is trying to make me look bad. Remember all the good times we've had. Tell the judge you want to live with me if they ask. Dominic handed the phone back. How do you feel about that? Leo considered the question carefully. I think I want to tell the truth. About everything. Is that okay? The truth is always okay, Leo, Dominic assured him. Even when it's difficult. That night, as the house settled into an uneasy quiet, Vanessa in the guest room, Leo finally asleep, and Dominic reviewing documents for the hearing. A final text came through on Leo's phone. It was from Vanessa. I know your father has poisoned you against me. But remember, if you say anything that makes me look bad tomorrow, there will be consequences. I'm still your mother. Leo, unable to sleep, saw the message immediately. Without hesitation, he forwarded it to his father. Dominic stared at the naked threat, feeling the last vestiges of restraint slipping away. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. Chapter 6. The Crucible of Truth. The family court's austere wood-paneled chamber seemed to amplify every sound. The shuffle of papers, the clearing of throats, the soft whisk of the ceiling fans. Judge Raymond Whitman, a man whose severe expression matched his reputation for no-nonsense rulings, surveyed the parties before him. On one side sat Dominic with Olivia, both composed and prepared. On the other, Vanessa fidgeted beside her attorney, Mallory Reed, a divorce lawyer known for aggressive tactics and theatrical courtroom performances. Eleanor sat directly behind them, her expression suggesting she'd smelled something unpleasant. Leo waited outside with a court-appointed guardian ad litem, a psychologist who would assess his best interests independent of either parent's claims. This is a preliminary hearing to establish temporary custody arrangements and address immediate concerns, Judge Whitman began. I have reviewed the filings from both parties, including some troubling communications. His gaze fixed on Vanessa momentarily. Ms. Reed, your client has requested primary physical custody of the minor child. On what basis? Mallory stood, smoothing her suit jacket. Your Honor, despite Mr. Russo's claims, my client has been a devoted mother who has balanced career demands with parenting responsibilities for 14 years. The cherry-picked communications presented by opposing counsel show a mother occasionally frustrated, as all parents are, but don't reflect the full picture of her relationship with her son. Judge Whitman's expression remained impassive, and the text messages threatening the child if he speaks against her in court? Do those reflect frustration as well? Mallory faltered slightly. My client denies sending such messages, Your Honor. We believe Mr. Russo, who has admitted to surveillance of my client, may have fabricated these communications. Olivia rose. Your Honor, we have digital forensic evidence confirming these messages came from Ms. Russo's device at times and locations where she was present. Furthermore, we have recorded conversations between Ms. Russo, her mother, and Mr. Perry Walsh explicitly discussing their plan to destroy Mr. Russo's credibility and acknowledging Ms. Russo's desire to relinquish custody while maintaining appearances. Judge Whitman held up a hand. I've reviewed those transcripts, Ms. Adler. They are concerning, to say the least. Eleanor leaned forward, whispering urgently to Mallory, who nodded before addressing the court again. Your Honor, we request the opportunity to examine this alleged evidence with our own digital forensic expert. Furthermore, any recordings made without my client's knowledge may be inadmissible under wiretapping statutes. The recordings were made in Ms. Preston's home, with surveillance devices legally placed during a public event, Olivia countered, and the text messages were freely shared by the minor child, who was the recipient. The legal arguments continued, with Mallory becoming increasingly desperate as Judge Whitman appeared unmoved by her objections. After 30 minutes of technical disputes, the judge interrupted. I believe it would be beneficial to hear from the child at this point. Ms. Adler, you've requested that Leo Russo be permitted to address the court? Yes, Your Honor. He has expressed a strong desire to speak regarding his living situation. Judge Whitman nodded to the bailiff, who opened the door. Leo entered, looking small but determined in his dress shirt and tie. The guardian ad litem, Dr. Sarah Chun, accompanied him, giving him an encouraging nod. Leo, I understand you wish to speak today, Judge Whitman said, his tone gentler than it had been with the attorneys. You're not required to, but if you want to share your thoughts with the court, you may do so. Leo glanced at his father, who gave him a subtle nod, then at his mother, who attempted a warm smile that didn't reach her eyes. Thank you, Your Honor, Leo said, his voice surprisingly steady. I would like to speak. Proceed when you're ready, Judge Whitman encouraged. Leo took a deep breath. Your Honor, may I read something first? A text message my mom sent me last night. Vanessa stiffened visibly. Judge Whitman nodded his permission. Leo pulled out his phone. This is from my mom at 11:42 p.m. last night. I know your father has poisoned you against me. But remember, if you say anything that makes me look bad tomorrow, there will be consequences. I'm still your mother. Murmurs filled the courtroom. Vanessa's face flushed with anger, while Eleanor looked like she might combust. And this is from 3 days ago. Leo continued, scrolling through his phone. I'm taking the dog. You get the disgusting kid. Her mom laughed. At least the dog's trained. I wish you could hear how they talk about you. Leo looked up, meeting the judge's eyes directly. She sent that by mistake. It was supposed to go to Mr. Walsh or Grandma Eleanor, quoting their earlier conversation about me. Judge Whitman leaned forward. Leo, how do these messages make you feel? Sad, Leo answered honestly, but not surprised. Mom has always been disappointed in me because I'm not like other kids, because I like science and acoustic engineering instead of sports, because I'm quiet at parties instead of sociable like she wants. Objection. Mallory stood. This is clearly rehearsed testimony. Ms. Reed, this is not a trial, and the child is not a witness being cross-examined. Judge Whitman reprimanded sharply. He is expressing his feelings and experiences, which are directly relevant to these proceedings. Please continue, Leo. Leo nodded. Recently, Mom suddenly started coming to my science competitions and posting pictures online about being proud of me. But it wasn't real. She never asked me about my project or what it does. She just took photos and left. And your father? Judge Whitman prompted. Dad has always supported me, Leo replied simply. He doesn't care if I'm different. He helps with my projects, listens to my ideas, and never makes me feel bad about who I am. Judge Whitman nodded thoughtfully. Is there anything else you'd like to tell me about your situation at home? Leo hesitated, then spoke with careful deliberation. Sir, can I read what Mom texted me last night? The one I just mentioned about consequences. The judge nodded, his expression grave. Leo cleared his throat. The text was a threat. If I told the truth today, there would be consequences. But my dad taught me that the truth matters, even when it's hard. He looked directly at Vanessa now. Mom doesn't want me. She wants Bella, our dog, because Bella is normal and trainable. Those are Grandma Eleanor's words, but Mom agrees with them. I've heard them talking when they didn't know I was listening. The courtroom fell completely silent as Leo continued. I don't want to live where I'm not wanted, he concluded simply. I want to stay with my dad. Judge Whitman studied Leo for a moment. Thank you for your courage today, Leo. You may step outside with Dr. Chun now, while we continue. After Leo left, the judge turned his attention back to the attorneys, but his expression had hardened considerably. Ms. Reed, does your client wish to respond to these statements? Vanessa whispered frantically to Mallory, who then addressed the court. Your Honor, my client acknowledges sending messages in moments of stress, but contends they are being taken out of context. As for the allegations about her preferences regarding custody, she categorically denies any intention to abandon her parental responsibilities. Then perhaps she can explain this email. Olivia interjected, presenting a document to the court. Sent for Vanessa Russo to Eleanor Preston just 6 weeks ago, stating, and I quote, I'm taking the dog. He can have the disgusting kid. Let him deal with the science experiments and social awkwardness. I put in my time. Vanessa's face drained of color. Eleanor, from her seat behind the counsel table, suddenly stood. This is absurd. Private communications between mother and daughter are being twisted to paint Vanessa as an unfit mother. Ms. Preston, Judge Whitman warned, you are not a party to these proceedings. Please be seated or you will be removed. Eleanor ignored him, continuing her tirade. That boy has always been strange. Is it any wonder his mother occasionally expresses frustration? At least the dog behaves normally. The courtroom erupted in shocked whispers. Judge Whitman banged his gavel. Ms. Preston, you are in contempt of court. Bailiff, please escort her out. As the bailiff approached, Eleanor turned to Vanessa. Tell them how difficult that boy has always been. How you suffered trying to raise such an odd child. The bailiff took Eleanor's arm, leading her toward the door. Her parting shot echoed through the chamber. You should have left years ago, Vanessa, taken the dog and left him with that strange child. After order was restored, Judge Whitman looked directly at Vanessa. Ms. Russo, given what has transpired here today, do you wish to modify your custody request? Vanessa, still visibly shaken by her mother's outburst, conferred briefly with Mallory. The attorney then addressed the court. Your Honor, in light of today's revelations, my client is willing to consider a temporary custody arrangement that prioritizes stability for the minor child while these matters are further investigated. I'm not interested in further investigations, Judge Whitman stated flatly. The evidence before me is clear and compelling. I am granting temporary full custody to Dominic Russo, with supervised visitation for Vanessa Russo at Mr. Russo's discretion. He turned to Dominic. Mr. Russo, I must commend your restraint throughout these proceedings, particularly given the nature of the communications regarding your son. The court appreciates your focus on Leo's well-being rather than retribution. Dominic nodded respectfully. Leo's welfare is my only concern, Your Honor. Judge Whitman made several additional rulings regarding financial matters and set dates for subsequent hearings before concluding the session. As the courtroom began to clear, Vanessa approached Dominic, her expression a mixture of defeat and lingering defiance. You orchestrated all of this, she accused in a low voice. Recorded conversations, saved emails, you've been planning this for months. I simply preserved the truth, Dominic replied quietly. Your words, your actions, those were your choices, not mine. This isn't over, Vanessa hissed. Perry may be finished, but I still have options. Dominic met her gaze steadily. For Leo's sake, I hope one of those options is becoming a better mother. But regardless of what you choose, he will never again feel unwanted or inadequate in his own home. He left her standing there, joining Leo and Olivia in the hallway. The boy looked drained but relieved. You did well in there, Dominic told him, placing a hand on his shoulder. I'm proud of you. Is it over? Leo asked hopefully. The beginning is over, Dominic answered truthfully. There's more to come, but the most important part is settled. You're staying with me. Leo nodded, processing this information with his typical thoughtfulness. What about Bella? Dominic smiled slightly. We'll see. One battle at a time. As they walked out of the courthouse, Dominic's phone buzzed with a text from Kendrick. Phase 1 complete. Ready for Phase 2 when you are. Dominic looked at his son, then back at his phone. Proceed, he typed. The battle for custody might be won, but the war was far from over. Eleanor's financial resources and vindictive nature made her a continuing threat. And Vanessa, humiliated but not defeated, will be looking for any opportunity to strike back. But for now, Leo was safe. And that was what mattered most. Chapter 7, The Counterstrike. 3 weeks after the preliminary hearing, Dominic sat in his home office reviewing the financial impact statements Olivia had prepared. The temporary custody arrangement had solidified into a more permanent solution after Vanessa's subsequent behavior, erratic, retaliatory, and ultimately self-destructive, had further damaged her case. She had tried, as threatened, to attack Dominic through the press. Eleanor's tabloid connections had run stories suggesting Dominic was a controlling husband who had manipulated his sensitive son against his mother. The stories had fallen flat when Leo's school records, teacher testimonials, and Vanessa's own documented behavior painted a very different picture. Now, Vanessa was facing not just divorce, but potential criminal charges for attempting to bribe Leo's guardian ad litem. A desperate move orchestrated by Eleanor that had backfired spectacularly when Dr. Chen reported the attempt immediately. A knock at the door pulled Dominic from his thoughts. Leo entered, Bella trotting happily beside him. The golden retriever had become a point of contention in the divorce proceedings, with Vanessa initially insisting she should keep the dog despite losing custody of her son. However, after Leo's testimony about how she had prioritized the dog over him, Judge Whitman had awarded temporary possession of Bella to Dominic and Leo as well. "Dad, can I talk to you about something?" Leo asked, settling into the chair across from Dominic's desk. Bella flopped contentedly at his feet. Of course, Dominic set aside his papers. "What's on your mind?" "Mom called again," Leo said, his expression troubled. She was crying, saying she misses me and Bella, that she's sorry for everything, and that Grandma Eleanor pushed her to say those things about me. Dominic considered his response carefully. Despite everything, Vanessa was still Leo's mother. "Do you believe her?" Leo shrugged. "I don't know. She never apologized before, even when she did stuff that hurt my feelings. It feels different now, like she's only sorry because she lost." "That's very perceptive," Dominic acknowledged. "People sometimes confuse regret over consequences with genuine remorse for their actions." "She wants to see me, without the supervisor." Leo picked at a loose thread on his jeans. "She says the supervision makes her feel like a criminal." "The supervision is there to protect you," Dominic explained. "Not just physically, but emotionally. The things your mother and grandmother said about you were a form of abuse, Leo. The court recognizes that." Leo nodded slowly. "I know, but part of me still wishes things could be normal. That mom could just like me for who I am." Dominic felt a pang of sympathy for his son. Despite the cruelty Vanessa had shown, Leo still craved his mother's genuine acceptance, a natural desire that might never be fulfilled. "We can't control how other people feel or behave," Dominic said gently. "We can only control our own responses. Your mother has choices to make about what kind of parent she wants to be. Those choices are hers, not yours." "I think I want to keep the supervised visits for now," Leo decided. "It feels safer." "I think that's wise," Dominic agreed, proud of his son's self-awareness. "Now, how about that science project? Did you finish the acoustic resonance patterns?" Leo's face lit up as he launched into an enthusiastic explanation of his latest work. Dominic listened attentively, marveling at his son's brilliance and emotional resilience. Despite everything, Leo was thriving in their new arrangement, his confidence growing without the constant undercurrent of his mother's disappointment. Later that evening, Dominic received a call from Kendrick. "Eleanor's making moves," the investigator reported. "She's been meeting with Calvin Weber." Calvin Weber was a business rival of Dominic's, a developer with a reputation for underhanded tactics and questionable financing. They had competed for projects over the years, with Dominic usually emerging victorious due to his superior planning and ethical business practices. "What kind of moves?" Dominic asked, stepping onto his back patio to ensure Leo couldn't overhear. "She's offering inside information on your upcoming bids, specifically the Harbor View project. Says she has access to your financial strategy through Vanessa." Dominic considered this. Vanessa had never been involved in the company's financial planning, but she had occasionally been present when he discussed projects at home. She might have gleaned enough to sound convincing to someone like Weber. "Let them proceed," Dominic decided. In fact, make sure Weber gets some additional insider information through channels he'll trust. "The misinformation protocol we discussed last month," Kendrick confirmed. "Exactly. Time to let Eleanor hang herself." The Harbor View project was a major downtown revitalization effort worth nearly $50 million. Dominic had been preparing his company's bid for months, creating detailed proposals that would transform the waterfront area into a mixed-use development, focusing on sustainability and community integration. What Eleanor and Weber didn't know was that Dominic had anticipated this move. Weeks earlier, he had created a shadow proposal, a convincing but fundamentally flawed plan with financial projections that appeared solid but contained critical miscalculations. This decoy proposal had been accidentally left where Vanessa could access it during one of her visits to collect personal items from the house. Now, Dominic just needed to confirm she had taken a bait. "There's more," Kendrick continued. "Eleanor's financial situation isn't as robust as she pretends. Her late husband's investments have been underperforming for years. She's leveraged the lake house to fund Vanessa's legal fees and their PR campaign against you. This was valuable information. Eleanor's apparent wealth had always been her shield against consequences, allowing her to operate with impunity in social circles where appearances mattered more than character. Keep tracking her finances, Dominic instructed, and make sure our contacts at First National are aware of her liquidity issues before she approaches them for additional credit. After ending the call, Dominic sent a message to Olivia. Eleanor's moving on the business front. Time to activate the Preston Protocol. The Preston Protocol was the final phase of Dominic's plan, a comprehensive response to Eleanor's interference that would neutralize her ability to harm Leo or damage Dominic's business interests. Unlike his approach with Vanessa, which had been primarily defensive and focused on protecting Leo, his strategy for Eleanor was proactive and designed to eliminate her influence permanently. Eleanor had spent years manipulating her daughter, encouraging her worst qualities, and ultimately contributing to the toxic environment that had harmed Leo. Dominic had long suspected she viewed Leo as a disappointment primarily because the boy's intellect and quiet nature reminded her of her late husband's academic brother, a man she had openly disdained for being too intellectual and socially awkward. Now, Eleanor had moved beyond family dynamics into attempting to sabotage Dominic's business, an arena where he was particularly unforgiving. The next morning, Dominic met with his executive team to review the actual harbor view proposal. The team was unaware of the shadow proposal or the potential information leak. "We're in excellent position for this bid," reported Alicia Terrell, his chief financial officer. "Our financing is solid, our sustainability metrics are industry-leading, and our community integration plan addresses all the city council's priority concerns." "What about Weber Development?" Dominic asked casually. "I heard they're putting together an aggressive package." Alicia looked surprised. "Weber? Our intel suggests they're focusing on the Westridge project instead. They don't have the sustainability expertise Harborview requires." "Things change," Dominic remarked. "Let's proceed as planned, but I want additional security on all our proposal documents. Nothing leaves this office without encryption and tracking." After the meeting, Dominic received a text from an unknown number. Weber bit hard. "Meeting with financial backers tomorrow using your numbers. Eleanor attending as special consultant." The trap was set. Now, he just needed to prepare for the fallout. That evening, as Dominic helped Leo with a particularly complex math problem, his phone rang. It was Vanessa. "I want to talk about settlement terms," she said without preamble. "Mother thinks we should keep fighting, but I'm tired, Dominic." "What did you have in mind?" he asked, stepping away from the kitchen table where Leo was working. "I'll drop the custody battle. Full custody to you, with reasonable visitation for me." Her voice sounded deflated. "In exchange, I want a fair financial settlement and no criminal charges for the misunderstanding with Dr. Chun." "Attempted bribery isn't a misunderstanding, Vanessa," Dominic reminded her. "But I'm willing to discuss terms if you're serious about putting Leo's interests first." "I am," she insisted. "I've been seeing a therapist. She's helping me understand some patterns in my behavior. My relationship with Mother, how it affected my relationship with Leo." Dominic remained skeptical but recognized potential value in Vanessa developing genuine insight. "Send your proposed terms to Olivia. We'll review them. But understand this. If this is another strategy or delay tactic, there won't be another chance." "It's not," Vanessa said quietly. "And Dominic, I need to tell you something about Mother. She took some documents from your home office during my last visit. Financial information about the Harborview project. She's working with Calvin Weber. So she was confessing." "Interesting. Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm starting to see things clearly," Vanessa replied. "Mother's always used people, me included. But using Leo against you, that crossed a line I should never have allowed her to cross." After ending the call, Dominic stood silently in the hallway, processing this development. Was Vanessa's apparent change of heart genuine, or another manipulation? Either way, her confession about Eleanor and Weber confirmed they had taken a bait. Tomorrow would bring the next phase of Eleanor's downfall. For tonight, Dominic returned to the kitchen table, where Leo was working on his math problems with Bella stretched out contentedly under his chair. Some battles were worth fighting to the bitter end. Others were simply stepping stones toward what truly mattered. Chapter 8. The Collapse. The Harborview Project bid presentation was scheduled for Thursday morning at City Hall. By Wednesday afternoon, Calvin Weber was feeling supremely confident. Thanks to Eleanor Preston's inside information, Weber Development had crafted a proposal that seemingly undercut Russo Developments on every key metric while still maintaining profitability. What Weber didn't know was that the financial projections he had based his bid on contained fatal flaws. The labor costs were underestimated by nearly 30%. The environmental remediation budget was insufficient by half, and the timeline assumptions failed to account for critical infrastructure dependencies. To anyone without detailed knowledge of the project, the errors were invisible. To the experienced City Planning Commission, they would be glaring red flags. Dominic sat in his car outside City Hall, watching as Weber arrived with Eleanor Preston beside him, both looking triumphant. He took a photo with his phone and sent it to Kendrick with the caption, "Phase 2 initiated." Inside, the commissioners were gathering for the pre-bid review session when Dominic's phone buzzed. It was Olivia. Judge signed off on the settlement agreement. Vanessa just countersigned. Full custody confirmed. Financial terms as discussed. She waived alimony in exchange for lump sum payment. One battle conclusively won. Dominic allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before focusing on the task at hand. He entered City Hall just as Eleanor was being escorted into the waiting area for non-presenters. Their eyes met briefly, hers triumphant, his impassive. The presentations proceeded methodically. 3 smaller firms presented first, offering solid but unimaginative proposals. Then came Weber, brimming with confidence as he outlined a plan that promised everything the city wanted at costs that seemed remarkably favorable. The commissioners asked standard questions, which Weber answered smoothly, clearly believing he had outmaneuvered everyone. When one commissioner inquired about the environmental remediation costs, Weber cited figures directly from the shadow proposal Dominic had planted. "Mr. Weber," said Commissioner Garcia, "these estimates seem unusually low given the site's industrial history. Could you walk us through your assessment methodology?" Weber hesitated momentarily before recovering. "Our environmental consultants have developed proprietary techniques that allow for more cost-effective remediation while exceeding regulatory requirements." It was an empty answer, and Garcia's expression showed she recognized it as such, but she simply nodded and made a note. When it was Dominic's turn to present, he didn't directly challenge Weber's figures. Instead, he systematically laid out Russo Development's comprehensive approach, backed by detailed analyses, expert assessments, and a financing structure that was conservative but realistic. "Our proposal may not appear to be the least expensive option initially," Dominic acknowledged, "but our integrated approach ensures long-term sustainability, both environmental and financial. We've included contingency budgets for unexpected challenges, comprehensive community benefit agreements, and local hiring guarantees." The commissioners asked pointed questions, which Dominic answered with precise technical details. By the end of his presentation, the contrast between the two approaches was clear to anyone with expertise in development projects. As Dominic was gathering his materials, Commissioner Garcia approached him privately. "Interesting coincidence," she remarked. "Weber's proposal contained financial projections remarkably similar to early drafts we received from your team last month, drafts that your office subsequently corrected, citing computational errors." Dominic maintained a neutral expression. "That is interesting. I wasn't aware our preliminary projections had been shared with the commission." "They weren't supposed to be," Garcia replied. "They came in an unmarked envelope addressed to me personally. I assumed it was an internal leak and notified our security team." "I appreciate you telling me this," Dominic said carefully. "Corporate espionage is unfortunately common in our industry." Garcia studied him for a moment. "The commission takes such matters seriously, Mr. Russo. If someone obtained proprietary information improperly and then based a multi-million-dollar bid on it without due diligence, well, that would be concerning on multiple levels." "Very concerning indeed," Dominic agreed. As he left City Hall, Dominic noticed Eleanor in deep conversation with Weber, both looking increasingly agitated. He didn't need to hear their words to know they were realizing something had gone very wrong. His phone buzzed with a text from Kendrick. Financial Times reporter just received anonymous tip about Weber's bid irregularities. Story developing. By evening, the story had broken. The Financial Times article didn't directly accuse Weber of corporate espionage, but raised serious questions about the remarkable similarities between early drafts of Russo Development's proposal and Weber Development's final bid. Similarities that extended to identical errors that had long since been corrected in Russo's actual submission. Calvin Weber issued an immediate denial, claiming any similarities were coincidental. Eleanor Preston was not mentioned in the article, but industry insiders would recognize her presence at the bid presentation as unusual and significant. The next morning, as Dominic was preparing for a conference call, his secure line rang. It was an unlisted number that very few people had access to. "Russo," he answered. "You set me up." Calvin Weber's voice was tight with fury. Those projections were deliberately flawed. "I have no idea what you're talking about, Weber," Dominic replied calmly. "But if someone provided you with stolen information that turned out to be incorrect, perhaps you should be questioning your source rather than the victim of the theft. Eleanor Preston swore the information came directly from your files Vanessa accessed during a court-approved visit to collect personal items. And you believe that a woman in the middle of a bitter divorce battle with me would have access to accurate, current information about a $50 million project." Dominic let his incredulity show. "That shows remarkably poor judgment, Calvin. The kind of judgment that makes investors nervous." Weber was silent for a moment. "The Commission is requesting a full audit of our bid documentation and sources." "As they should," Dominic remarked. "Transparency is essential in public projects." "This isn't over, Russo." "Actually, I think it is." Dominic's voice turned cold. "You allowed yourself to be manipulated by someone with a personal vendetta against me. And in doing so, you violated bidding ethics at minimum, possibly laws regarding corporate espionage. Your reputation will take years to recover, if it ever does." After ending the call, Dominic received a text from an unknown number. "Eleanor Preston just emptied her primary accounts. Appears to be preparing for rapid departure." Dominic forwarded the message to Kendrick with instructions. "Alert Preston Protocol Phase 3 contacts." Phase 3 involved ensuring that Eleanor couldn't simply flee and regroup. Dominic had anticipated this move and had prepared accordingly. With contacts at border control, financial institutions, and relevant authorities all primed to pay special attention to Eleanor Preston should she suddenly attempt to leave the country or move substantial assets. That afternoon, as Dominic was picking Leo up from school, his phone buzzed with a news alert. Weber Development CEO Calvin Weber faces investigation for bid irregularities. Company shares plummet. Leo noticed his father's slight smile. "Good news?" he asked. "Just business," Dominic replied. "How was the science club meeting?" "Amazing. Dr. Feldman from the university came to talk about acoustic engineering applications and structural integrity monitoring. He said my project has potential for real-world applications." Leo's enthusiasm was infectious. "That's fantastic," Dominic said sincerely. "We should celebrate. How about dinner at Giovanni's?" As they drove home, Dominic received another alert. Eleanor Preston named in Weber Development investigation. Financial ties to fraudulent bid under scrutiny. Phase 3 was proceeding exactly as planned. Eleanor's reputation, the thing she valued above all else, was beginning to crumble. By morning, her social standing would be irreparably damaged, her financial situation exposed as precarious, and her legal vulnerability evident to all. That evening, as Dominic and Leo were enjoying dinner at Giovanni's, Vanessa unexpectedly appeared at their table. She looked tired but composed. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said quietly. "Leo, I just wanted to say hello. I missed you." Leo looked to his father, who nodded slightly. "Hi, Mom," he replied cautiously. "I won't stay," Vanessa assured them. I wanted to tell you both that I'm moving to Chicago next month. A fresh start. And Leo, I'd like to keep in touch, if that's okay with you and your dad." "Chicago." Leo looked surprised. "What about your design business here?" "I'm selling it," Vanessa explained. "I need a change, professionally and personally." Dominic studied his ex-wife carefully. There was something different about her, a subdued quality that seemed genuine rather than tactical. "What about Eleanor?" he asked directly. Vanessa's expression hardened slightly. "Mother and I are taking some space from each other. The therapist calls it establishing healthy boundaries. I call it finally growing up." She turned to Leo. "I know I haven't been the mother you deserved. I don't expect forgiveness. But I am sorry, Leo. Truly sorry." Leo nodded, clearly uncertain how to respond to this unprecedented apology. "The supervised visitation is still in effect until you leave," Dominic reminded her gently, but firmly. "I know. I respect that." Vanessa glanced at her watch. "I should go. Thank you for letting me say hello." After she left, Leo looked thoughtful. "Do you think she means it? About being sorry?" Dominic considered the question carefully. "I think she's beginning to understand what she's lost. Whether that translates to genuine change, only time will tell." As they finished their meal, Dominic's phone buzzed with yet another alert. Eleanor Preston detained at airport. Passport flagged in connection with ongoing financial investigation. Eleanor had attempted to flee, just as Dominic had predicted. Now she would face the consequences of her actions, not just regarding the Weber situation, but a host of financial irregularities that Kendrick's investigation had uncovered and anonymously reported to relevant authorities. The Preston Protocol was complete. Eleanor would never again have the resources or standing to harm Leo or interfere in their lives. Vanessa, separated from her mother's toxic influence, might actually develop into a better person, perhaps even eventually a better mother. And Weber's attempt to profit from stolen information had backfired catastrophically, ensuring he would never again be a threat to Dominic's business interests. As they drove home, Leo asked unexpectedly, "Dad, does revenge make things better?" Dominic glanced at his son, surprised by the perceptive question. "That depends on what you mean by better. Sometimes protecting yourself and those you love requires ensuring that those who would harm you face consequences for their actions." "Is that what happened with Mom and Grandma Eleanor? And Mr. Walsh? They made choices that hurt you," Dominic replied carefully. "I made sure those choices had appropriate consequences." Leo nodded, processing this. "I think I understand. It's like in physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction." "Something like that," Dominic agreed, impressed as always by his son's insight. "The key is to make sure the reaction is proportional and precise." As they pulled into their driveway, Bella's excited face appeared in the window, her tail visibly wagging even from a distance. Leo smiled at the sight. "I'm glad we kept her," he said, "even if Mom only wanted her because she's normal." "Bella knows who truly cares for her," Dominic replied. "Animals are good judges of character that way." The final pieces had fallen into place. The battle was won. And while Dominic took no joy in others' suffering, he felt the deep satisfaction of having protected what mattered most to him: his son, his business, his principles. Those who had betrayed him had learned a costly lesson. Dominic Russo never forgot, and he never forgave. Chapter 9. Ashes and Steel. 6 months later, Dominic stood at the edge of the Harborview construction site, watching as the first structural beams were swung into place by massive cranes. Beside him, Leo recorded the sound of the construction with specialized microphones for a new project analyzing urban acoustic patterns. "The resonance changes as the structure takes shape," Leo explained enthusiastically. "I'm tracking how the soundscape evolves throughout the construction process." Dominic smiled at his son's passion. The past 6 months had brought remarkable changes for both of them. Leo had blossomed academically and even socially, joining a robotics club where he had made several friends who shared his intellectual interests. Without his mother's constant criticism and his grandmother's toxic influence, he had grown more confident, more willing to embrace his unique perspective rather than apologize for it. For Dominic, the professional successes had been substantial. The Harborview project had been awarded to Russo Developments, while Weber's company had imploded under the weight of the investigation, and Calvin Weber himself was facing potential charges for fraud and corporate espionage. His phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Final judgment received. Permanent custody arrangement approved as submitted. No appeals filed. The last legal thread tied off neatly. Vanessa had followed through on her plan to relocate to Chicago, maintaining limited contact with Leo through weekly video calls that had gradually become less awkward and more meaningful. She seemed genuinely committed to her therapy, occasionally sharing insights with Dominic about patterns she was recognizing in her behavior and her relationship with her mother. Speaking of Eleanor, she had faced a spectacular fall from grace. The investigation into her role in the Weberbid scandal had uncovered financial improprieties dating back years: tax evasion, misrepresentation of assets, and questionable property transfers designed to hide money from creditors. The elegant lake house had been seized, her social standing obliterated, and her legal troubles multiplied as former friends abandoned her and sometimes even contributed damaging information to authorities. She now faced multiple felony charges and had been reduced to living in a modest apartment paid for by a distant cousin who had taken pity on her. The woman who had once looked down on Dominic for being new money was now experiencing firsthand what it meant to fall from social grace with no safety net. As for Perry Walsh, his professional reputation was in tatters. The company audit had revealed his misappropriation of funds in excruciating detail, and the board had not only terminated him, but filed civil charges to recover the stolen money. His gambling debts had caught up to him, forcing him to sell his home and luxury cars. Last Dominic had heard, Perry was working as a sales representative for a small building supply company in another state, his dreams of wealth and status permanently shattered. "Dad, listen to this," Leo said, offering his headphones. Dominic put them on and heard the complex layering of construction sounds, transformed through Leo's recording equipment into something almost musical. The rhythmic pounding of pile drivers providing a steady beat beneath the metallic symphony of welding and the deep groans of moving steel. "That's incredible," Dominic said sincerely, returning the headphones. "You're capturing the voice of the building as it's born." Leo beamed at the understanding. "Exactly. Every structure has its own acoustic signature. I'm cataloging them." As they walked back to the car, Dominic reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The pain had been necessary, a fire that had burned away the rot and left behind something stronger, purer. Leo was thriving. The business was expanding. The threats had been neutralized. That evening, as they ate dinner on the patio with Bella lounging contentedly nearby, Leo suddenly asked, "Do you think people can truly change, Dad?" Dominic considered the question carefully. "I think people can evolve within the framework of who they fundamentally are. Your mother, for instance, will always be image-conscious and concerned with social standing. That's deeply ingrained in her. But she can become aware of those tendencies and choose different responses. And Grandma Eleanor? Some people are too invested in their patterns to change," Dominic replied honestly. "Your grandmother spent decades building her identity around social status and control. Losing those things hasn't made her reconsider her values. It's made her bitter about losing what she values." Leo nodded thoughtfully. "What about you? Have you changed?" The question caught Dominic by surprise. "In what way?" "Mom says you've become harder, less forgiving." Leo met his father's eyes directly. "She said you used to believe in second chances." Dominic set down his fork, giving the question the consideration it deserved. "I believe in justice, Leo, in consequences proportional to actions. Your mother betrayed our family and hurt you deeply, but she's shown genuine remorse and a desire to improve. That earns a certain level of cautious reconciliation. But not for Grandma Eleanor or Mr. Walsh. They showed no remorse, no recognition of the harm they caused," Dominic explained. "They were sorry they got caught, not sorry for what they did. That's a crucial difference." Leo absorbed this, his analytical mind visibly processing the distinction. "So forgiveness is conditional on genuine remorse and change behavior?" "In my view, yes," Dominic confirmed. "Forgiveness without those elements isn't mercy. It's enabling harmful behavior to continue." Later that night, after Leo had gone to bed, Dominic received an unexpected call from Vanessa. "I just want to check in," she said, her voice clear despite the distance. "Leo seemed a little quiet during our call yesterday. He's been asking philosophical questions about change and forgiveness, Dominic replied, processing everything that's happened. Vanessa was silent for a moment. He's always been so thoughtful. I never appreciated that enough. He's doing well, Dominic assured her. The robotics club has been good for him. Kids who share his interests, who value his intelligence rather than seeing it as something to be embarrassed about. I'm glad, Vanessa said softly. Dominic, I know I have no right to ask, but I need to know something. Was it all planned? Everything that happened to Mother, to Perry, to me, did you orchestrate all of it from the beginning? Dominic considered his response carefully. I protected my son and my business from people who were causing harm. The specific consequences they faced were largely determined by their own choices. That's not really an answer, Vanessa noted. It's the only one I'm offering, Dominic replied without rancor. How's Chicago? Vanessa accepted the change of subject. Different. Humbling. I'm starting over at an entry-level position with a design firm. My therapist says it's good for me to earn things through merit rather than connections. She sounds insightful. She is. Vanessa paused. She's helped me understand how Mother shaped me, how I learned to value appearance over substance, to see different as deficient, how I projected those values on a Leo. Understanding is the first step, Dominic acknowledged. I don't expect forgiveness, Vanessa said quietly, but I'm trying to become someone Leo won't be ashamed to have as a mother. After ending the call, Dominic walked through the silent house, checking on Leo before settling in his office. On his desk sat a framed photo taken at Leo's recent science competition. Father and son standing proudly together, Dominic's hand on Leo's shoulder, both smiling with genuine happiness. Next to it lay the final court judgment, granting permanent full custody to Dominic with structured visitation rights for Vanessa. The document represented the official end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Dominic opened his laptop, reviewing the latest projections for the Harborview project. Everything was proceeding on schedule, the company's reputation enhanced by the contrast with Weber's disgrace. Some might view his actions over the past year as ruthless, perhaps even vengeful. Dominic saw them differently, as necessary and proportional responses to threats against what mattered most to him. Vanessa had betrayed their family, but shown capacity for growth. Eleanor and Perry had shown only self-interest and malice. Their respective fates reflected those differences. He had protected his son, secured his business, ensured that those who had caused harm faced appropriate consequences. And he had done it all without compromising his principles or losing control, the calculated justice he had promised himself from the beginning. As for forgiveness, that was a bridge he hadn't yet decided whether to cross. For Leo's mother, perhaps, in time, if her evolution proved genuine. For Eleanor and Perry, there would be none. Some betrayals cut too deep, revealed character flaws too fundamental to ever merit redemption. Dominic Russo never forgot, and he only forgave when forgiveness was earned through genuine change, a standard few met once they had revealed their true selves through betrayal. The house was quiet, his son was safe, the future secure. Justice had been served, cold, precise, and complete. For Dominic, that was enough. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there. Welcome back to another story on Infidelity Tales Lab. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Perfect Life. Wade Sanders stood in his garage workshop, carefully sanding the edges of a wooden jewelry box he'd been crafting for his wife Marissa's birthday. At 42, he'd built a comfortable life as a structural engineer, good salary, respectable position at Morrison & Associates, and a beautiful home in the suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, casting long shadows across his workbench. Dad, can Kelsey and Whitney sleep over Friday night? His 11-year-old daughter, Emma, bounced into the garage, her ponytail swinging. Please? It's been forever since I had a sleepover. Wade smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm. Have you asked your mom? She said to ask you. Of course she did. Marissa had been deflecting parenting decisions to him more frequently lately. He'd attributed it to stress from her new job at the marketing firm, though he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them over the past 6 months. She'd become distant, constantly on her phone, taking calls in other rooms. Sure, kiddo, but that's a lot of girls. How many are we talking? Just 7. Kelsey, Whitney, and 5 others from school. Mom said she'd help supervise. Wade set down his sandpaper. 7 preteens? That's ambitious. All right, but you're responsible for planning activities and cleaning up afterward. Emma squealed and hugged him before racing back inside. Wade returned to his project, unaware that he'd just agreed to the night that would destroy everything. That evening, Wade found his brother-in-law Victor Burns sitting at his kitchen table when he came in from the garage. Victor was Marissa's older brother, a smooth-talking real estate developer who'd made millions flipping properties during the market boom. At 45, he dressed in expensive suits and drove a Tesla, always quick to mention his latest deal or acquisition. Wade, there's my favorite engineer, Victor said with that practiced smile Wade had never quite trusted. I was just telling Marissa about a commercial property opportunity. Thought you might want in on the investment. Not interested, Victor. We've talked about this. Wade washed his hands at the sink. I don't mix family and business. Your loss. Property's going to triple in value within 2 years. Victor exchanged a glance with Marissa that Wade caught in the reflection of the window. Something unspoken passed between them. Where's Emma? Wade asked, changing the subject. Upstairs on her tablet, Marissa said, not looking up from her phone. She's excited about the sleepover. Wade studied his wife. When had she stopped meeting his eyes? Why had the warmth in her voice disappeared? They'd been married 13 years, together since college. He'd built his career while she'd focused on raising Emma, only returning to work last year. The Marissa he'd married would have been excited about their daughter's sleepover, planning activities and snacks. This version seemed annoyed by the inconvenience. I should go, Victor said, standing. Marissa, I'll text you those property details. After Victor left, Wade approached his wife. Is everything okay between us? What? Yes, of course. Why would you ask that? Marissa's response came too quickly, too defensively. You seem distant lately, like your mind is somewhere else. I'm just busy with work, Wade. Not everything is about you. She walked away, leaving him standing in the kitchen, a knot forming in his stomach. Chapter 2. Seeds of Doubt. The week leading to the sleepover felt increasingly strange. Wade noticed Marissa and Victor texting constantly. When he'd asked about it, she'd snapped that Victor was helping her with a work thing. But Marissa worked in marketing. What would a real estate developer know about her field? On Wednesday night, Wade came home early and overheard Marissa on the phone in the study. The door was cracked open. Just a few more days, then everything changes. I know. Emma's ready. She knows exactly what to say. A pause. Of course I'm sure. Wade won't know what hit him. He's too trusting, too oblivious. This is going to work. Wade's blood ran cold. He backed away silently, his mind racing. What was Marissa planning? What did Emma know exactly what to say about? That night, he lay awake while Marissa slept beside him. He thought about their marriage, searching for signs he'd missed. The late-night work calls. The new lingerie he'd found in her drawer but never saw her wear, for him, at least. The way she'd insisted on separate bank accounts last year. The life insurance policy she'd pushed him to increase to $2 million. Wade had built his career on analyzing structural weaknesses in buildings, finding the stress points before catastrophic failure. Now he turned that analytical mind on his own life. Something was critically wrong, but he couldn't see the full picture yet. Friday arrived. Wade left work at noon to help prepare for the sleepover. When he got home, Victor's Tesla was in the driveway. Through the window, he saw Victor and Marissa sitting close on the couch, Marissa's hand on Victor's thigh. They jumped apart when Wade opened the door. Wade, you're home early, Marissa said, her face flushed. It's Emma's sleepover. I told you I'd leave early to help set up. Wade's voice was steady, but his heart hammered. Victor, what are you doing here? Just dropping off some Girl Scout cookies Emma ordered. My girlfriend's daughter is in her troop. Victor stood smoothly. I was just leaving. After Victor left, Wade confronted Marissa. Don't insult my intelligence. What's going on with you and your brother? Nothing's going on. God, Wade, you're so paranoid lately. Maybe you should talk to someone about your trust issues. She brushed past him to the kitchen. Gaslighting. The word appeared in Wade's mind. She was trying to make him doubt his own perceptions. The girls arrived at 6. Kelsey Burgess, Whitney Haynes, and 5 others whose parents Wade vaguely recognized from school events. They descended on the basement rec room with sleeping bags, snacks, and enough energy to power a small city. Wade ordered pizza while Marissa set up movies. He noticed her typing rapidly on her phone, smiling at the screen. Around 9, she announced she had a headache and was going to bed early, leaving Wade to supervise alone. Actually, Emma, why don't you girls come upstairs for snacks? Wade suggested around 10. Let your mom rest. As the girls thundered upstairs, Wade noticed Emma grab her tablet from the charging station. Throughout the evening, he'd caught her looking at him strangely, not with her usual affection, but with something that looked almost like calculation. She was 11 years old. What could she possibly be calculating? At midnight, Wade sent the girls back to the basement to sleep and headed to bed himself. Marissa was asleep, or pretending to be. He lay in the darkness, unable to shake the feeling that he was standing on a precipice, about to fall into something terrible. He had no idea how right he was. Chapter 3. The Unraveling. Wade woke Saturday morning to the sound of parents arriving early to pick up their daughters. Through the bedroom window, he watched Kelsey's mother, Tanya Randolph, practically dragging her daughter to the car, her face twisted in anger. Whitney's father, Glenn Blake, didn't even come to the door. Whitney ran out with her overnight bag, looking terrified. Something had happened. Wade pulled on jeans and a t-shirt, heading downstairs. Emma sat at the kitchen table, eating cereal with an odd smile on her face. Not the innocent joy of a child, but something else. Something knowing. Where's your mom? Wade asked. She went to the store, Emma said without looking up from her bowl. The doorbell rang. Wade opened it to find Amber Slater, one of the mothers from last night. Her face was red with fury. How dare you let me send my daughter to this house, she screamed. Don't you ever contact us again. Never. What? Amber, what are you talking about? She was already running back to her car. Wade stood frozen in the doorway as his phone began ringing. He answered to hear another mother, Susan Bryan, shrieking at him. We trusted you. We thought you were a good man, a good father. What you and Marissa did, it's disgusting. It's criminal. Don't ever speak to me or my daughter again. Susan, what did we do? I don't understand. She hung up. The calls kept coming. 7 mothers, all screaming, all refusing to explain. Each one said variations of the same thing. He was disgusting, a monster. How could he? Never contact them again. When Wade tried to call them back, they blocked his number. His hands shaking, Wade turned to Emma. What happened last night? What did you show those girls? Emma's smile widened. She picked up her tablet from the counter and held it out to him. I showed them Mom and Uncle Victor's secret. The videos are pretty horrifying. Wade's blood turned to ice as he took the tablet. The screen showed a video file titled Master Bedroom Night. He pressed play. The video showed his and Marissa's bedroom, taken from a hidden camera Emma must have placed. But it wasn't just Marissa in the bed. Victor Burns lay beside her, both of them naked, clearly post-coital. The timestamp showed 2 weeks ago, a night Wade had been at a conference in Atlanta. Wade's vision blurred. He scrolled through the tablet. There were dozens of videos. Marissa and Victor in Wade's bed, in the living room, in Victor's Tesla in the driveway. Audio recordings of them planning something, their voices low and conspiratorial. But there was more, and this was what made Wade's stomach drop. Mixed in with the legitimate videos of the affair were other files. Videos that had been edited, manipulated. One showed what appeared to be Wade entering Emma's bedroom late at night, except Wade knew he'd never done that. The footage was spliced, timestamps altered. There were text message screenshots, supposedly from Wade's phone, saying inappropriate things. Financial records showing suspicious purchases Wade had never made. Someone had been building a case against him, and they'd coached his own daughter to be the one to reveal it. Emma, Wade's voice was barely a whisper. Did Mom tell you to show these videos to your friends? Emma's smile faltered for just a moment. Mom said you and Uncle Victor did bad things. She said the other parents needed to know. She said after today, everything would be better. Wade's mind raced. This wasn't just an affair. This was a setup. Marissa and Victor weren't just betraying him. They were trying to destroy him. The fake videos, the manufactured evidence, using Emma as the delivery system to ensure maximum damage, and a dozen witnesses to the revelation. Why? What did they gain from ruining him? The answer hit him like a freight train. The life insurance, the separate bank accounts, Victor's constant talk about investments. They wanted him out of the picture, discredited, destroyed, maybe even in prison, so they could be together and take everything he'd built. His phone rang again. This time, it was his boss, Kent Shea. Wade, I just got a very disturbing call from Glenn Blake. He's on the board of directors. He's saying things about you that, Wade, I'm going to have to put you on administrative leave while we investigate. I'm sorry, Kent, it's not. Don't come into the office Monday. We'll be in touch. The line went dead. Wade heard a car in the driveway. Through the window, he saw Marissa getting out, her face carefully arranged in an expression of shock and distress. She'd been waiting nearby, ready to come home and play the devastated wife. She walked in, saw Wade holding the tablet, and her performance began. Oh my God, Wade. Emma just texted me. She said she showed those videos to her friends. I had no idea she knew about. Marissa's voice broke convincingly. How could you do this? How could you involve your own daughter in your sick games with my brother? Wade stared at his wife, finally seeing her clearly. The woman he'd loved for 13 years was gone, replaced by a stranger wearing her face. A stranger who'd orchestrated his destruction with cold precision. You did this, Wade said quietly. You and Victor. You manufactured evidence, coached our daughter, and used her sleepover to detonate it all at once. You wanted witnesses. You wanted it spread to maximum people as quickly as possible. You're insane, Marissa said, but Wade saw the flicker of surprise in her eyes. She hadn't expected him to figure it out so quickly. I'm calling the police. You need help. Go ahead, Wade said. Call them. Marissa pulled out her phone, but before she could dial, Wade's phone rang. It was Alan Jenkins, his attorney and old college friend. Wade, I just got the strangest call from Mitchell Haskins, the prosecutor. He says they're expecting a 911 call from your wife today about videos of you. What the hell is going on? Wade's mind clicked into focus. The prosecutor knew in advance. That meant this was coordinated. Marissa and Victor had been building this for months, getting pieces in place. Alan, I need you to come to my house right now. Don't call, don't text. Just come. I'm about to be arrested for something I didn't do, and I need you to understand what's really happening before the police get here. He hung up and looked at Marissa. She stood frozen, her phone in her hand, realizing that her perfect plan had a flaw. She'd underestimated her husband. Make your call, Wade said. Do what you came here to do. But know this, Marissa, I will prove what you and Victor did. I will expose both of you. And when I'm done, you'll wish you just asked for a divorce. Marissa's mask finally cracked. For just a moment, he saw fear flash across her face. Then she composed herself and dialed 911. Please help me, she said into the phone, her voice trembling with false terror. My daughter showed me videos on her tablet. My husband, I think he's been hurting her. And there are other things, terrible things with my brother. Please send someone. I'm afraid of what he might do. Wade stood perfectly still, his mind already working through the problem like he would a structural failure. Find the weak points. Apply the right pressure. Bring the whole corrupt edifice down. His life as he knew it was over. But he was Wade Sanders. He built a career on solving impossible problems. And he just found his most important project yet, destroying the two people who'd tried to destroy him. Chapter 4. The Cage. The police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 patrol officers and Detective Darren Rankin, a stocky man in his 50s who'd clearly been briefed in advance. Wade's attorney, Alan Jenkins, pulled up just as they were putting Wade in handcuffs. Don't say anything, Alan commanded. Not one word. At the station, Wade was processed and photographed like a criminal. They took his phone, his wallet, his belt, his dignity. Detective Rankin led him to an interrogation room where Mitchell Haskins, The assistant district attorney waited with a smug expression. Mr. Sanders, we have multiple videos showing you engaged in inappropriate contact with a minor. Your own daughter, Haskins began. We also have evidence suggesting you've been involved in some kind of sexual relationship with Victor Burns. The videos your daughter distributed show. My client invokes his right to remain silent and requests all questioning cease immediately, Allen interrupted. Furthermore, I'm putting you on notice that those videos have been manipulated. My client is the victim of an elaborate frame-up, and we will be providing evidence of this. Haskins laughed. A frame-up? Mr. Jenkins, we have a tablet full of videos taken over several months. We have 12 witnesses, 11-year-old girls, who saw these videos. We have your client's own wife reporting this. What possible evidence could you have? The kind that will end your career if you proceed without proper investigation, Allen shot back. My client is a respected engineer with zero history of inappropriate behavior. His wife, however, has been having an affair with her brother-in-law, Victor Burns, for at least 6 months. This is a conspiracy to destroy my client's reputation and steal his assets. If you rush to judgment, you'll be the one facing consequences. The confidence in Allen's voice gave Haskins pause. We'll continue our investigation. But Mr. Sanders, you're being released on bail with conditions. No contact with your daughter, no going within 500 feet of your home, and you surrender your passport. Wade posted bail using his emergency fund and walked out of the station into the harsh afternoon sunlight. Allen led him to his car. Tell me everything, Allen said once they were driving. And I mean everything. Wade laid it all out. The affair, the strange behavior, the overheard conversations, the manufactured evidence mixed with real videos of Marissa and Victor's affair. By the time he finished, they were at Allen's house in Davidson, a quiet neighborhood 30 minutes from Wade's home. You'll stay in my guest room, Allen said. Now, here's what we know for certain. Marissa and Victor are having an affair. They coached Emma to reveal these videos at a sleepover to create maximum damage. They planted fake videos alongside real ones to confuse the narrative. But why go to such elaborate lengths? The life insurance, Wade said. $2 million. If I'm convicted of a felony, especially one involving a minor, Marissa could potentially collect on it while divorcing me. Even if she couldn't, I'd lose everything in the divorce. My home, my savings, my reputation. She and Victor could be together with no financial consequences. We need to prove the videos are fake, Allen said. And we need to find out how deep this conspiracy goes. Mitchell Haskins seemed awfully prepared for your arrest, like he knew it was coming. Wade's analytical mind clicked through possibilities. Victor Burns is wealthy and connected. He's probably been greasing palms, making promises. If he could guarantee a prosecution, he'd look like a hero for turning in a child predator, even if that predator is his brother-in-law. Over the next 2 weeks, Wade's life imploded. The story spread through Charlotte's suburbs like wildfire. 7 11-year-old girls had seen proof that Wade Sanders was a monster. Their parents told other parents. Wade's neighbors avoided eye contact. Someone spray-painted predator on his driveway before the locks were changed. His employer officially terminated him, pending investigation. But Wade didn't break. Instead, he planned. He hired Corinne Clark, a forensic digital analyst who specialized in video manipulation detection. She examined the files on Emma's tablet, which Allen had secured through a court order, and within days had a report. 11 of the 23 videos have been digitally altered, Corinne explained in Allen's office. The timestamps are wrong. The metadata shows they were created using editing software on Victor Burns' computer. His digital fingerprint is all over these files. Someone took legitimate footage from security cameras in your home and spliced in segments to create false scenarios. Can you testify to this? Allen asked. Absolutely. This is some of the sloppiest digital forgery I've seen. They were banking on shock value and the testimony of children to carry the day without technical scrutiny. Wade felt the first stirrings of hope. But hope wasn't enough. He needed more. He contacted Brad Vance, a private investigator he'd worked with on insurance fraud cases. I need everything on Victor Burns and his connection to Mitchell Haskins. Financial records, phone logs, meeting places. Everything. Brad was expensive, but Wade liquidated his emergency fund without hesitation. By the end of week 3, Brad delivered. Victor Burns made 5 payments of $10,000 each to a shell company owned by Mitchell Haskins' wife over the past 6 months, Brad reported, spreading documents across Allen's dining table. They've also been meeting regularly at the Founders Club. Victor's a member. Haskins is his guest. And here's the interesting part. Victor's been telling people at the club that he's going to be inheriting a structural engineering firm soon. What firm? Wade asked. Yours. Apparently, he's been telling investors he's buying out Morrison & Associates and merging it with his real estate development company. He's been taking deposits for a project that requires insider engineering expertise. Expertise he doesn't have. But if he could install himself as a silent partner in your firm, using your reputation while you're out of the picture. Wade saw it now. The full picture. Victor didn't just want Marissa. He wanted Wade's professional reputation, his connections, his client base. He wanted to literally take over Wade's life. He's going to be disappointed, Wade said quietly. Because I'm going to take everything from him first. Chapter 5, The Counterstrike. Wade spent the next month building his case, but more importantly, building his trap. He couldn't just prove his innocence. He needed to utterly destroy Marissa and Victor in a way that ensured they'd face real consequences. His first target was Emma. He hated that his daughter had been turned into a weapon against him, but he needed to understand how thoroughly she'd been manipulated. Through his lawyer, he requested supervised visitation. Marissa fought it, but the court allowed 2 hours a week at a family counseling center with Dr. Linda Costello, a child psychologist. The first session, Emma wouldn't look at him. Emma, sweetheart, I know your mom told you things about me, Wade said gently. Bad things. But they're not true. Mom showed me the videos herself, Emma said to the floor. She said you were hurting me at night, but I didn't remember because you gave me medicine to make me sleep. Wade's hands clenched. Marissa had been systematically implanting false memories in their daughter. Emma, do you actually remember me hurting you? In your own memory, not what Mom told you. Emma was quiet for a long time. No, she finally whispered. But Mom said I wouldn't remember. She said that's why we had to catch you on camera. Did Mom help you set up those cameras? Another long pause. Yes. She said we had to get proof to protect me. She said Uncle Victor was helping us. Dr. Costello intervened. Emma, I'd like to talk with you privately for a bit. Is that okay? Wade stepped outside. 30 minutes later, Dr. Costello emerged with a grim expression. Mr. Sanders, I'm going to be filing a report with the court. Your daughter has been subjected to parental alienation and possible coaching to create false testimony. She's confused and frightened. With your permission, I'd like to start regular sessions with her to help her process what's really happened. It was the first break in the dam. Meanwhile, Brad Vance had been busy. He'd installed monitoring software on Victor's phone during a consultation about investment opportunities. Technically illegal, but Wade was past caring about technicalities. The recordings were devastating. In one, Victor and Marissa discussed their timeline. Once Wade's convicted, you file for divorce citing criminal behavior. Clean break. You get everything. I buy Morrison & Associates from Kent Shea at bankruptcy prices since their reputation is trashed. We wait a respectable year, then get married. In another, Victor coached Marissa on her testimony. Cry when you talk about finding the videos. Say you suspected something was wrong, but were too afraid to check. Make yourself the victim too. But the most damning recording came from a meeting between Victor and Mitchell Haskins at the Founders Club. You're sure the videos will hold up? Haskins asked. They don't have to hold up forever, Victor replied. Just long enough to get an indictment and destroy his reputation. By the time any forensic analyst gets involved, Wade will have already lost everything that matters. And your wife's consulting firm will get that real estate development contract we discussed. I do love a mutually beneficial arrangement, Haskins said with a laugh. Wade listened to the recordings in Allen's office, his face impassive. But inside, rage burned cold and pure. This is bribery and conspiracy, Allen said. Haskins will be disbarred and criminally charged. Victor will face charges for fraud and bribery at minimum. Marissa will lose custody of Emma and potentially face charges for child abuse and filing false police reports. It's not enough, Wade said. Alan looked at him sharply. Wait, we have them. This is over. You've won. No, Wade said softly. This is the evidence that proves my innocence. What I want is justice. Real justice. The kind that makes sure they never do this to anyone else. Over the next 2 weeks, Wade implemented his plan. He had Brad Vance leak selected information to specific people. Kent Shea at Morrison & Associates, Glenn Blake, and the other parents whose daughters had attended the sleepover, and most importantly, to Adrian Stanley, an investigative journalist at the Charlotte Observer who specialized in corruption cases. Wade also made a move that surprised even Alan. He reached out to Victor's business partners in his real estate development firm. Through Brad's investigation, Wade had learned that Victor had been embezzling from his own company, hiding losses from bad investments by showing fake profits from the engineering firm acquisition that he'd promised investors. Mr. Burns told us he had insider access to Morrison & Associates through his brother-in-law, explained Dennis McKenzie, Victor's primary business partner, when Wade met him secretly at a coffee shop. He's taken deposits for mixed-use development that requires engineering approval we don't actually have. If this Morrison deal falls through, we're exposed for millions in fraud. The Morrison deal was never real, Wade explained. Victor manufactured evidence against me to steal my reputation and my firm. He's been using your company and your investors' money to fund a personal vendetta. But I can help you. If you're willing to cooperate with authorities and testify against Victor, I can provide evidence that shows you were also his victim. Mackenzie's face went pale as Wade laid out the full scope of Victor's conspiracy. By the end of their meeting, Mackenzie had agreed to cooperate fully. The trap was set. Wade just needed to spring it at the right moment. That moment came when Mitchell Haskins scheduled Wade's preliminary hearing for the criminal charges. It would be public. There would be press. And Wade was going to burn Marissa and Victor's lives to the ground in front of everyone. Chapter 6, The Revelation. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning in late March. The courtroom was packed. Parents from the sleepover, Wade's former colleagues, reporters, and curious onlookers who'd followed the scandalous story. Marissa sat in the front row with Victor beside her, playing the supportive brother. She dressed in somber colors, her hair pulled back, looking every inch the traumatized wife. Victor wore an expensive suit and an expression of righteous anger. Wade sat at the defense table with Alan, wearing the same calm, analytical expression he'd worn throughout this nightmare. Mitchell Haskins strutted to the prosecution table with 3 associates, clearly expecting an easy win. Judge Antonia Bright, a stern woman in her 60s, called the court to order. Haskins began his opening statement, painting Wade as a predatory monster who'd abused his daughter and engaged in illicit activities with his brother-in-law. He introduced the tablet evidence, called 2 of the mothers to testify about what their daughters had reported, and finally called Marissa to the stand. Marissa's performance was Oscar-worthy. She cried. She trembled. She described her horror at discovering the videos, her anguish at realizing her husband was a monster, her terror for her daughter's safety. "And when did you first become aware of your husband's inappropriate behavior?" Haskins asked. "I suspected something was wrong about 6 months ago," Marissa said, dabbing her eyes. Emma seemed frightened of him. She didn't want to be alone with him. "But I didn't want to believe my own husband could." She broke down in convincing sobs. Wade watched her performance without expression. Alan patted his shoulder and stood for cross-examination. "Mrs. Sanders, you testified that you suspected something 6 months ago. Is it true that 6 months ago you also began a sexual relationship with your brother, Victor Burns?" The courtroom erupted. Judge Bright's gavel cracked like thunder. Marissa's face went white. That's not. I'll take that as a yes," Alan continued smoothly. "And is it true that you and Mr. Burns planted hidden cameras in your marital home and used video editing software to create false evidence against your husband?" Objection. Haskins was on his feet. "This is outrageous speculation. I have video evidence of the affair and testimony from a forensic analyst about the edited videos, Your Honor," Alan said. "I also have recordings of Mr. Burns and Mr. Haskins discussing their conspiracy to falsely prosecute my client. The courtroom exploded again. Judge Bright ordered everyone except the attorneys to her chambers immediately. In chambers, Allen presented everything. Corinne Clark's forensic report on the manipulated videos. Brad Vance's evidence of Victor's payments to Haskins' wife. The recordings of Victor and Marissa planning Wade's destruction. The evidence of Victor's business fraud. Dennis McKenzie's sworn statement about Victor's embezzlement and false promises. Judge Bright's face grew darker with each piece of evidence. "Mr. Haskins," she said in a voice like ice, "you are suspended from this case immediately. I'm referring this matter to the State Bar and the Attorney General. These are criminal charges." "Your Honor, I can't explain," Haskins began. "Get out of my chambers," Judge Bright said. "You're done." When court reconvened, the room fell silent as Judge Bright made her announcement. "All charges against Wade Sanders are dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, I'm issuing immediate warrants for the arrests of Victor Burns, Marissa Sanders, and Mitchell Haskins on charges of conspiracy, evidence tampering, bribery, and filing false police reports. Bailiff, please take Mrs. Sanders and Mr. Burns into custody." Chaos erupted. Marissa screamed as bailiffs approached her. Victor tried to run, but was tackled before he reached the door. Reporters shouted questions. Parents from a sleepover sat in stunned silence. Wade stood slowly, his face still calm, and walked out of the courtroom a free man. Behind him, he could hear Marissa shrieking his name, her voice filled with venom. Outside the courthouse, Adrian Stanley from the Charlotte Observer approached with his camera crew. "Mr. Sanders, how does it feel to be vindicated?" Wade looked directly into the camera. "My wife and her brother tried to destroy me. They manipulated my daughter, corrupted a prosecutor, and manufactured evidence to steal my life. They did this for money and lust. They did it without conscience. I'm grateful for the truth, but I'm devastated by what this has done to my daughter. She was used as a weapon against me, and now she has to live with that knowledge. That's the real crime here." It was the perfect statement. Wade came across as measured, sympathetic, and focused on his daughter rather than revenge. The video went viral within hours. That evening, Wade sat in Allen's living room watching the news coverage. Victor Burns arrested for fraud and conspiracy. Mitchell Haskins suspended and facing criminal charges. Marissa Sanders denied bail due to flight risk. The phone rang. It was Kent Shea from Morrison & Associates. "Wade, I owe you an apology." "We all do. The firm wants you back, full reinstatement, back pay, and a promotion to senior partner. We're also prepared to offer a substantial settlement for the wrongful termination." "I'll think about it," Wade said. "Right now, I'm focused on my daughter." After he hung up, Allen sat down beside him. "You did it. You beat them." "Not yet," Wade said quietly. "They're arrested, but this goes to trial. And I want to make sure they never see daylight as free people again." Allen studied his friend. "Wade, what else are you planning?" Wade smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "I'm planning to testify at their trials. I'm planning to make sure every detail of what they did comes out. I'm planning to get full custody of Emma and get her real help. And I'm planning to sue both of them in civil court for everything they have." "That's not revenge, Wade. That's justice." "Sometimes," Wade said, "they're the same thing." Chapter 7. The Trials. The trials of Victor Burns, Marissa Sanders, and Mitchell Haskins became the biggest legal spectacle Charlotte had seen in years. Adrian Stanley's reporting for the Charlotte Observer had sparked national interest. Cable news picked up the story. Engineer fights back against conspiracy to destroy him. Victor Burns' trial came first. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. The edited videos with his digital fingerprints, the payments to Haskins' wife, the embezzlement from his own company, recordings of him coaching Marissa, and his false promises to investors. Wade testified on day 3. He took the stand wearing a simple suit, his voice calm and factual as he described discovering the affair, the manufactured evidence, and the elaborate conspiracy to steal his life. "Mr. Burns wanted everything I had," Wade testified. "My wife, my home, my career, my reputation. He was willing to send me to prison and traumatize my daughter to get it. That's not passion or poor judgment. That's calculated evil. Victor's defense attorney tried to paint Wade as paranoid and vengeful, but the evidence was insurmountable. The recordings spoke for themselves. Dennis McKenzie testified about the business fraud. Corinne Clark explained how the videos were manipulated. Even some of Victor's former friends testified that he'd been bragging about taking over Wade's engineering firm. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: conspiracy, fraud, bribery, evidence tampering, and child endangerment. The judge sentenced Victor to 15 years in prison. Victor's face crumbled as the sentence was read. As bailiffs led him away, he looked back at Wade with pure hatred. Wade met his gaze without expression until Victor was gone. Marissa's trial was harder. She was Emma's mother, and her defense attorney played that angle hard, trying to paint her as a woman who'd fallen under Victor's manipulative influence. But the prosecution presented the recordings of Marissa actively planning Wade's destruction. They showed her coaching Emma. They brought in Dr. Costello to testify about the parental alienation and psychological abuse Emma had suffered. Wade testified again, and this time it was more difficult. Despite everything Marissa had done, they'd shared 13 years and a child together. But when the prosecutor asked him directly about Marissa's role in the conspiracy, Wade didn't flinch. My wife wasn't a victim of Victor's manipulation. She was his co-conspirator. She had opportunities to stop this, to tell the truth, to protect our daughter from being used as a weapon. Instead, she chose to implant false memories in Emma's mind. She chose to plant cameras in our home. She chose to coach our daughter to destroy me at a sleepover so there would be maximum witnesses and maximum damage. Those are her choices. She owns them. The jury found Marissa guilty of conspiracy, child abuse, evidence tampering, and filing false police reports. The judge sentenced her to 12 years, noting that a mother who weaponizes her own child represents a fundamental betrayal of the parent-child relationship. Marissa sobbed as the sentence was read, turning to Wade with pleading eyes. "Wade, please. I'm sorry. Please tell them I'm sorry. Emma needs her mother." Wade stood and walked out of the courtroom without a word. Mitchell Haskins' trial was quickest. A prosecutor who'd taken bribes and participated in a conspiracy to falsely imprison an innocent man wasn't going to find much sympathy. He was convicted, disbarred, and sentenced to 10 years. With the criminal trials over, Wade moved forward with the civil lawsuits. He sued both Victor and Marissa for damages: emotional distress, lost wages, damage to reputation, legal fees, and punitive damages. The jury awarded him $4.7 million from Victor's real estate holdings and business assets, and $1.2 million from Marissa's share of their marital assets. Victor's real estate empire collapsed. Dennis McKenzie's company sued him separately for the embezzlement. Investors sued for fraud. By the time all the civil actions were complete, Victor Burns had nothing. His properties were liquidated. His bank accounts emptied. His reputation destroyed. Marissa lost everything too: her share of the house, her retirement accounts, her car. The only thing Wade didn't touch was a small trust fund her grandmother had left her, and only because he knew Emma might need it someday for college. But Wade's real focus was on Emma. Chapter 8: The Healing. With both Marissa and Victor in prison, Wade was granted full custody of Emma. But custody was just paperwork. The real work was helping his daughter heal from the psychological damage her mother and uncle had inflicted. Dr. Linda Costello continued weekly sessions with Emma, now supplemented by trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. It was slow, painful work. Emma had been systematically manipulated for months, taught to see her father as a monster, coached to participate in his destruction. Undoing that damage took time. The first month, Emma barely spoke to Wade. She lived in Alan's guest room. Wade was staying there too, unwilling to return to the house where so much had happened, and communicated in monosyllables. She wouldn't eat meals with Wade. She watched TV with the volume high to avoid talking to him. Wade didn't push. He just showed up. Every day he was there. He made her breakfast even when she didn't eat it. He asked about her day even when she didn't answer. He left notes in her lunch telling her he loved her. 6 weeks in, Emma came to him crying at 2 in the morning. "Dad, I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry for what I did, for what I helped them do to you. I thought I was protecting myself, but Mom lied to me. She lied about everything." Wade held his daughter while she cried, his own tears falling into her hair. "I forgive you, Emma. You were manipulated by people who should have protected you. None of this is your fault. But I showed those videos. I told people terrible things about you. Those girls' parents still think you're." "The truth is out now," Wade said gently. "The people who matter know what really happened. And anyone who doesn't take the time to learn the truth isn't someone I care about anyway." The healing wasn't linear. There were setbacks. Days when Emma was angry at Wade for taking her mom away. Days when she blamed herself. Days when she didn't want to get out of bed. But there were also victories. The first time Emma laughed at one of Wade's dad jokes. The first time she asked him to watch a movie with her. The first time she called him dad without the word sounding like an accusation. 3 months after the trials ended, Emma asked if they could visit her mom in prison. Dr. Costello advised against it. It was too soon. Emma needed more healing time. But Emma insisted. The visit was supervised and limited to 30 minutes. Marissa looked hollow in her prison uniform, her hair pulled back severely, her face aged by guilt and stress. "Emma, baby, I'm so sorry," Marissa said immediately, her voice breaking. "I know I hurt you. I hurt you, Dad. I convinced myself I was doing the right thing, but I was wrong. I was so wrong." Emma sat stiffly beside Wade, not reaching for her mother's hand across the table. "Why did you do it?" "I was selfish," Marissa said. "I fell in love with Victor, and I wanted your father out of the way. I wanted his money, his success, everything he'd built. I wanted it for myself and Victor. And I convinced myself that the ends justified the means. But they didn't. I destroyed our family. I traumatized you. And I'm going to have to live with that for the rest of my life." "I don't forgive you," Emma said quietly. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I wanted to tell you that to your face." Marissa nodded, tears streaming down her face. "You don't owe me forgiveness. I just want you to know that I love you, even though I did terrible things. And your father is a good man. He always was. I'm the monster, not him." As they left the prison, Emma was quiet. In the car, she finally spoke. "Do you think I'll ever be able to forgive her?" "I don't know," Wade said honestly. "Maybe someday. But you don't have to decide that now. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to not forgive. Whatever you feel is okay." "I don't want to end up like her," Emma said. "Mean and selfish and willing to hurt people." "You won't," Wade promised. "Because you're already braver and more honest than she ever was. You told her you don't forgive her. That took courage. And you'll keep being courageous every day as you heal." By summer, Wade and Emma had moved into a new house across town, a fresh start away from the memories of the old place. Wade had returned to Morrison & Associates as a senior partner, his reputation not just restored but enhanced. Parents who'd shunned him after the sleepover sent apologetic letters and invitations to coffee. Emma started at a new school in the fall, and with Dr. Costello's help, she began making new friends who didn't know about her family scandal. She joined a robotics club and the school newspaper. She was still healing, still working through trauma, but she was moving forward. Chapter 9, New Beginnings. 1 year after the trials, Wade stood in his new workshop, a detached garage he'd converted into a proper woodworking space, putting finishing touches on a bookshelf for Emma's room. Fall sunlight streamed through the windows, and he could hear Emma inside the house practicing violin. She'd taken up the instrument at Dr. Costello's suggestion as a form of emotional expression. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Alan Jenkins. "Drinks tonight to celebrate? 1 year since you walked out of that courtroom a free man." Wade smiled and typed back, "Can't tonight. Emma and I are doing movie night." "Rain check. You're a good dad, Sanders." "I'm trying." He heard footsteps on the garage stairs and looked up to see Emma, now 12 and nearly as tall as Marissa had been. She'd grown her hair out and started wearing it in a braid that reminded Wade of her grandmother. "Need help?" she asked. "Sure. Can you hold this side while I attach the bracket?" They worked in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Emma spoke. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you still love Mom? Even after everything?" Wade considered the question carefully. "I love who I thought she was. The woman I married, who I had you with, who I built a life with. That woman doesn't exist anymore. Maybe she never did. So no, I don't love the person Marissa actually is. But I'm grateful for what we had, because it gave me you. I got a letter from her yesterday, Emma said. She's up for parole in 5 years. She wants to know if I'll write to her. What do you want to do? I don't know. Dr. Costello says I should only write if it helps me, not because I feel obligated. But part of me still misses her. Not the person who did those terrible things, but the mom she used to be. Then maybe you write about that, Wade suggested. Tell her you miss who she was, but you're not ready to forgive what she did. You don't have to make any decisions about a relationship with her now. You're 12. You're allowed to take your time. Emma nodded slowly. What about Uncle Victor? Do you ever think about him? Only to hope he's learned that actions have consequences, Wade said. He wanted to take everything from me, and instead he lost everything himself. That's justice. But you took everything from him, Emma pointed out. The lawsuits, the business, everything. Isn't that revenge? Wade set down his drill and looked at his daughter seriously. Emma, there's a difference between revenge and consequences. Revenge is hurting someone because you're angry and you want them to suffer. Consequences are holding people accountable for their choices. Victor and your mom chose to commit crimes. They chose to hurt people. I didn't take anything from them. They lost what they had because of what they did. I just made sure they couldn't hide from those consequences. So you don't feel guilty? Not even a little bit, Wade said. Should I? Emma thought about it. No, I guess not. They hurt you. They hurt me. They should face consequences for that. Exactly. They finished the bookshelf together and carried it upstairs to Emma's room. As they positioned it against the wall, Emma's phone buzzed with a text. She smiled. That's Kelsey. She wants to know if I can come to her birthday party next month. Wade felt a surge of relief. Kelsey Burgess had been one of the girls at the infamous sleepover. Her mother, Tanya, had been one of the first to apologize after the truth came out, and she'd been working to help Kelsey and Emma rebuild their friendship. That's great, kiddo. Do you want to go? Yeah. Kelsey and I talked about what happened. She said she was really confused that night, and her mom explained everything after the trial. She doesn't blame me. Good. You deserve friends who understand you didn't do anything wrong. That evening, Wade and Emma made popcorn and settled in to watch a movie. Emma's choice, some animated film about a girl who discovers she's actually a powerful sorceress. As they watched, Emma leaned against Wade's shoulder the way she used to when she was little. Dad, yeah. Thank you for not giving up on me. Even when I was awful to you, you kept trying. Wade kissed the top of her head. You're my daughter. I will never give up on you. Never. The movie played on, and Wade felt something he hadn't felt in 2 years. Peace. His life had been destroyed, systematically dismantled by people he should have been able to trust. But he'd fought back. He'd proved his innocence. He'd held the guilty accountable. And most importantly, he'd saved his daughter from becoming a casualty of her mother's selfishness. 2 weeks later, Wade stood in the offices of Morrison & Associates for the quarterly partner meeting. Kent Shea was introducing the firm's new direction, and Wade's name kept coming up. Thanks to Wade's reputation and the publicity around his case, we've actually seen a 40% increase in new clients, Kent explained. Companies want to work with an engineer who's known for integrity and fighting for the truth. Wade, would you like to say a few words? Wade stood and looked around at his colleagues. The same people who distanced themselves from him during the accusations and who'd since apologized and welcomed him back. I want to thank you all for the second chance, Wade said. But more importantly, I want to talk about the importance of truth in our profession. We're engineers. Our job is to find structural weaknesses before they cause catastrophic failure. That's what I did in my personal life, too. I found the weak points in the conspiracy against me, and I applied pressure until the whole corrupt structure collapsed. That's what we do here every day. We find problems and we solve them. And I'm proud to do that work with all of you. The room applauded. After the meeting, several partners approached to shake his hand and welcome him back fully into the firm. For the first time in 2 years, Wade felt like he truly belonged somewhere again. That evening, he stopped at the cemetery where his parents were buried. They died in a car accident 5 years ago, never knowing what their son would have to endure. Wade stood at their headstone, hands in his pockets. I wish you could have met Emma now, he said quietly. She's so strong, Mom. She's been through hell, and she's still standing. She gets that from you. He paused. And Dad, I finally understand what you meant when you said that character is what you do when everything's been taken from you. They took everything, and I built it back better. I hope you're proud. The wind rustled through the trees, and Wade felt a sense of closure he hadn't known he needed. 6 months later, on a Saturday morning in spring, Wade and Emma stood in front of their new house with a for-sale sign planted in the lawn. They weren't selling. This was a project. Wade had bought a fixer-upper on the other side of Charlotte, and they were going to renovate it together. Emma had expressed interest in architecture, and Wade wanted to show her the practical side of construction and design. Ready to build something? Wade asked. Emma grinned, a real, genuine smile that made Wade's heart soar. Let's do it. As I walked up to the house, Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her smile faded slightly. It's a reminder. Mom's parole hearing is in 6 months. Wade stopped and turned to his daughter. How do you feel about that? Scared, confused, angry, all of it. Emma took a breath. But Dr. Costello says those are all normal feelings. And whatever happens with the parole board, I don't have to see her if I'm not ready. That's right. This is your choice, always. Dad, can I ask you something else? Anything. Do you think you'll ever get married again? Or date anyone? Wade considered it. He'd been asked out a few times in recent months. A woman at the coffee shop, one of Emma's friend's single mothers, even his dental hygienist. But he declined every time. Maybe someday, he said honestly. But right now, my priority is you. Making sure you're okay. Making sure we build a life that makes us both happy. Romance can wait. I don't want you to be alone because of me, Emma said. I'm not alone. I have you. And that's more than enough. They spent the day at the fixer-upper, taking measurements and planning the renovation. Emma sketched design ideas while Wade assessed the structural issues. It felt good to build something instead of tearing something down. As they drove home that evening, Emma asked, Dad, do you ever wish none of it had happened? That Mom hadn't. That things were still normal. Wade thought about it. The truth is, Emma, our old normal wasn't healthy. Your mom and I weren't right for each other, probably for years. If this hadn't happened, we might have limped along in a broken marriage, and you would have grown up in that dysfunction. What happened was terrible, and I'll never forgive Marissa and Victor for what they did. But the life we're building now, this is healthier. This is real. So no, I don't wish for the old normal. I'm building us a better one. Emma nodded, processing this. Then she said something that made Wade's heart swell with pride. I'm glad you're my dad. I'm glad you're my daughter. They drove home through the spring evening, past the suburban streets where Wade's life had once fallen apart. But that life was gone now. The people who tried to destroy him were in prison. His reputation was restored. His career was thriving. And most importantly, his daughter was healing.